This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
And we welcome you to, what day is it? Thursday?
It's Thursday.
Yeah,
I don't know what day it is, though.
You've been all over.
I never do.
Man, welcome back.
It's good to be back with you. I will admit, Monday was weird not being here because I obviously I missed you, but I just missed everybody. I mean, it was weird. I felt very empty on Monday, so I'm glad we could do this today.
You had to head off to a mandatory company meeting.
I did. Somehow, it's weird. You got out of it. I'm confused by that.
It was yesterday, and they felt like
well, you're just too important.
Someone
here.
needed to be here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were here, and we appreciate you for your service on this show.
Thank you. I was apparently the only person out there, though.
By the way, yeah, you really were. You have decorated this studio very well, Paul. I'm impressed by your holiday spirit and the way that you have put out so many poinsettias. I mean, it feels very...
Have you
very festive?
Have you put up your Christmas? Because you haven't been home probably in about a month.
I have a fake tree up, which I will say there are people out there that would judge me for having a fake tree. I can't.
Why be concerned about that?
Well, I don't care exactly, which is why I just own up to my fake tree, and I like it. I think it's good, and that's about all I have going. I have a fake tree, a couple wreaths.
We have a wreath. Is it a wreath? Wreath?
Did you put an F on the end of that?
I don't know what I put on it.
Okay, good.
We have a wreath on the door.
Oh, nice.
A wreath, not a reefer.
I hope not. That'd be interesting. We're off to a good start.
We have a wreath.
Yeah.
On the door. Although what are the round things called?
The balls?
The balls. One of the balls fell. I jammed it back in so my wife wouldn't blame it on me for slamming the door too hard.
It was definitely
Anyway,
you.
we have a really big show on tap. George Schroeder. But he has a reef on his door, too. Billy Liucci. Scott Hamilton. Damien Harris will be by later. We love Damien. And your phone calls at 855-242-7285. So, you've been up in the great Northeast?
Yeah, it was a little chilly up there.
I bet it wasn't that warm.
I am a Southern girl, born and raised, and so I try to tough it out in the cold, but I'm just not quite built for it. I try, and it just... There was a moment yesterday in Bristol, Connecticut. It said that the wind chill made it feel about 6 degrees. I think it felt about -6.
Yeah,
and
that's a cold place.
We were trying to talk, and you know what happens when it gets really cold? I know you've experienced this before. Maybe TMI, but you start to have boogers coming out that you can't even feel. And people were having that, and you don't know if you should tell them.
That's why I wear a mask when I'm in the cold weather.
Yeah, no, you do. Yeah, you have to. And your lips are so numb that you can't talk, and you just sound a mess. But it was good. I'm glad to be back, though, in the South, where I would say where I belong.
We're glad to have you back.
Yeah.
And it was just fairly mundane without you on Monday.
Well, I've heard that Jim was wanting to call in and talk to me, so I'm wondering if he's going to call in today. I'd love to talk to him if he wants to call in and speak about anything.
I'm glad you want to talk to him.
No, I do. Yeah, I hope we hear from him. I hope we hear from everybody. I can't wait to hear from as many people as want to talk to us today.
Are you wearing something different today?
I'm wearing a necklace that Millie sent me. Paul, the last necklace that Millie sent me, you stole and gave to your wife, which is fine. I understand that.
I mean, she didn't know. Well, actually,
you regifted it.
I haven't given it to her yet. It's under the tree.
I hope she's not. I hope Linda's not listening. But anyway, so Millie, thank you very much for this.
Linda doesn't even know we're on right now.
Well, neither does Josh, but I really love this necklace, and I appreciate Millie for sending that. It's such a kind gesture, and it happened to match what I was wearing today. I would have worn it anyway. When I opened this letter from her, it was great to put on. So we love the Finebaum family.
We will grab some phone calls here, and we start with this guy's. To me, if you ever were starting a program, a radio show, this would be my host. Listen to this guy's voice. Hugh in Deep Gap, North Carolina.
Paul, you are entirely too kind, my friend. I appreciate that. Can you hear me all right? I'm working a new phone system here, and I'm not sure it's all that great.
You sound great, Hugh.
A couple of things. I've been watching or listening and watching your show when I have free afternoons. And the whole discussion about all of these young defensive coordinators that are made head coaches, I've sort of got an observation. I think they have a difficult time resting the proper assistant coaches to forge good offensive schemes and the ability to keep them accountable and retainable. And it seems to be much more difficult for defensive coaches than offense coaches. I think, and I am a Kentucky fan, graduate, love that school, but I think Tennessee has made a really good decision in bringing back the football godfather of the Tennessee program in the old coach, because he has sufficient standing with a lot of young coaches to maybe help Coach Pruitt come up with good people and put them on the right track to keep them accountable. I know in Kentucky's case, they've had 3 sets of offensive coordinators in 5 years, and it's kind of a miracle in some ways that their offensive line and Benny Snell has managed to lead the Southeastern Conference in yardage gain between the tackles. And if they had a passing game to go with it and some defense, they might be good. But anyhow, that was my thought for the day. I would really like for you to check with Booger and Big Swagoo about a question that I have about defense at the college level. Kentucky's been trying to run a 3-man front, and the truth of the matter is, whether it's the Locke kid from Missouri or the new kid playing down at Ole Miss, if you've got a quarterback that can high point the ball and deliver it, you give them 6 or 8 seconds back there, they're going to kill you. I don't care how good your defensive backs are. And I'm really disappointed that Coach Stoops, as a defensive specialist, hasn't been able to resolve those difficulties.
That's a great point. Hey, Hugh, thank you very, very much for the call. Brings up some interesting points.
Right. And, I mean, the differences between 3-4 and 4-3 is so much of it is personnel-based, and I understand what he's talking about. But the problem is these types of defensive linemen that can really make a difference in a 4-man front just do not grow on trees. You're not going to find that many of them. You know, Alabama finds a lot of them, obviously, and you see a team like Georgia having them. I think it's something that's difficult to do. I was actually recently talking to Coach Stoops about just some of the recruiting challenges that they have there in Kentucky. He wasn't making excuses, but they're not able to pull from the same talent bed. So you kind of have to make your scheme around what you can do best with the personnel you have on your team. So I think that's where a lot of it comes into play with trying to decide whether you're going to go 3-4 or 4-3. But he's right. Hugh is that you become susceptible to guys who can throw the football and to receivers that can create separation if you're relying on your defensive backs to do so much. But, I would still say that what Kentucky has done with the challenges they face from a recruiting standpoint, they should have beat Florida this year, but they have still done admirably well, in my opinion, with what they're up against.
More phone calls here. Sheriff is up next. Hello, Sheriff.
Hey, man.
How are you?
Oh, Florida, how y'all doing?
Great. How are you?
Oh, man. If I got any better, I'd need a twin brother. Look, Laura,
you'd be a what brother?
I would need a twin brother.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
Listen, Laura, you know why Jim won't debate you, right?
Oh, why?
Because you're smarter than him.
Sheriff, Jim would tell you that is not true because he's the smartest.
Well, Jim will also tell you that he played golf at the Tuscaloosa Country Club.
Yeah, you missed this yesterday, Laura. Jim called and said he had just gotten back from the golf course. So I just naturally asked him where he played.
Yeah.
And he said the Tuscaloosa Country Club, which made sense to me. I haven't been to that place in about 10 years, but we later found out it closed a year ago.
Oh.
So Jim was not telling the truth.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, that's odd.
Jim's kind of like a garbage truck. He's full of crap. How about that?
Well, maybe he got. Well, Sheriff, to be fair, guys, maybe he got confused about where he was. It happens to people sometimes.
Maybe he got confused because it was the pineapple on his pizza.
Yeah, well, that was another thing we talked about yesterday, but we'll skip that for today.
Well, Sheriff, how's Reeltown today?
Hey, but look. I was looking for Jim to come through and play at the Reeltown Country Club, but I hadn't seen him yet. So.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, if I see him, I will pass them your way. Hey, thank you for the call. Do appreciate it. We're up against a break after a couple of really
I like that Reeltown has a country club.
The Reeltown Country Club?
I'm going to have to go there. If someone will invite me, though.
I bet Charles will. But I know what. Yeah, anyway, we'll take a break. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. Laura in the house.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us. Laura here, and we're taking your phone calls at 855-242-7285. Pretty quiet day, which is good.
That always means when it's a quiet day,
something's about to happen.
Something's about to happen. I don't know what quite yet, but I'm feeling it. I feel it in the breeze.
We went from 2 weeks ago at this point to arguably the craziest 48 hours in college football history. Last week was busy. Things by Thursday night were landing. But this week, and I say this Thursday afternoon, there has been virtually nothing happening. I'll be on call tonight and tomorrow because something is bad.
You just jinxed yourself big time. I hope you're ready to spend the night here.
I am. I've got a cot.
You know, we were having this discussion on the ESPN 2-hour of your show. You were saying that college football loses some momentum after the conference championship games and the selection show and all of that. Upon the time of the Heisman and the college football awards, it sort of becomes a little bit of a lull. I see that, but I still kind of like it. I don't think that this time of year, these couple of weeks that may be kind of seen as a little bit of a low point or maybe a loss of momentum, I think you sort of need that for these players to get healthy, for these teams to sort of figure themselves out, things to settle a little bit, especially in a year like this where we saw so many coaching changes and so many things happening. And by the way, we're mentioning things settling. For these schools, they're not, because early signing day has changed things dramatically.
That's true.
They are trying to prepare for so much coming down the pipe. By the way, still making important official visits or taking official visits and going to visit potential prospects in their homes as well.
Well, I think that's the main reason why everything was done by last week.
Right.
This week, a year ago, I'm pretty sure Lane Kiffin, his announcement came out. The Ogeron thing had just happened. There were things going back and forth where you could not have waited until this week if you were a school looking for a coach.
Yeah, no, you couldn't have. And just in talking to some coaches over the last couple of weeks, one point that they brought up that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is just how much the early signing period affects bowl prep. Right. Now, for teams who are in the college football playoff, they almost have to say, hey, we've got to focus on the playoff. They have a little bit more time than some of these teams who are playing in bowl games more immediately, but it does factor in. You've got to focus on trying to wrap some of these kids up. A lot of schools expecting a good portion of their class to sign in this early signing day. If you miss out on some of those guys, you lose momentum there. We're already seeing some of that happen for some schools across the country where some players are decommitting or looking elsewhere. You've got to try to hold on to those guys while still preparing for a game that is certainly important as well.
Anyway, see what's going on the
let's
call.
See who's out there.
Rick, is in Pennsylvania. Rick, how are you doing?
How are you? All right, I'm doing fine. I want to say I watch your show every day, Paul, for 2 or 3 hours.
Thank you.
Pretty Laura, I think she's a wonderful person and a very good announcer.
Well, thanks, Rick.
I think in the playoffs, I think the SEC is going to win both games. I think Alabama will beat Clemson, and I think Georgia will beat Oklahoma, and it'll be an SEC championship. Me, I'm a season ticket holder of the Big Ten, Maryland, and Virginia, but I still say the SEC is number one in football. And Laura, you're lucky you live in Florida. Pennsylvania, it's 20 degrees above zero, and it is cold.
Yeah, Rick, let me correct
Rick.
you on that. Laura lives in Georgia, and last weekend, while some of us were dodging snow flurries, you had how much? What?
8 inches of snow
Whoa.
at my house, and we're a little north of Atlanta. But Rick, I mean, I'll admit, you certainly deal with it on a much more regular basis than I do. Hey, I want to know from somebody who's outside of the SEC, what do you think about an all-SEC championship game?
Well, I'm since I'm the only person that can hear you, since Rich has gone.
Did you? Oh, you let go of him?
Yeah.
Come on, Paul. I had a question for him. I thought he was still there. We could ask anybody that, though.
We'll ask someone else.
Okay, good.
Bill is in New Jersey, which is either north of Pennsylvania. Hello, depending on where you are in Pennsylvania. Bill, go right ahead.
Hello, Paul and Laura. Happy holidays. The first point I wanted to make is we have the Super Bowl in pro football. Why don't we give a name to the final game in college football and call it the College Bowl? It'd be a nice name.
Right now it's called the College Football Championship game.
College Football Playoff National
Championship. The College Bowl would have a snappy name.
Yeah.
Now, the other point I was going to make is we have the whole month of December. Why can't we be like 1AA, use the month of December to work 8 teams down to a final game on New Year's Day? Because otherwise you're interfering with the NFL.
Totally agree.
People in January are into the NFL playoffs.
Bill, you're 100% correct. I still maintain college football has it wrong. They try to flirt with that second weekend or first weekend, depending on when it is. And the college football championship game is on Monday. It follows 2 days of the wild card games, which suck all the energy and all the life out of the sports world.
Yeah, and Bill, they that's why they have to play that game on a Monday, because of the point you're bringing up. There's so much NFL action, as Paul said, and you wonder, if they were able to compartmentalize it, sort of squish it together into maybe an expanded or extended playoff in some way, shape, or form, and then put themselves in an opportunity. I think you would run into so many complications because of the early signing period now, which is not going away anytime soon, and teams having a chance to get ready for these games in a way that they wouldn't have if they played immediately. Although, wouldn't you guys say Clemson would have rather just continued playing? Like, they were playing so hot that they might have said, we don't need time to get healthy.
I don't think it's that complicated, Laura, because you have last weekend, you have this weekend. Now, next weekend is lost. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
But you have 2 weekends in the month to deal with. But college football is they like to think they know what they're doing, and they've done fairly well, although they were so convinced that the games on New Year's Eve would be successful that they realized after trying to bullhead their way through that, it wasn't a very good idea. Ed is in Mississippi, and you are next up. Go right ahead,
Well,
Ed.
Laura, how are you doing? Listen, since today is complimentary day, you don't mind if I pile on. Let me say this, Laura Rutledge. You are a trailblazing pioneer in women's sports commentary for women of this nation. Your in-depth analysis is precise, accurate, enlightening, and right on.
Well, thank you, Ed. That is very kind of you. I appreciate it.
What I really wanted to call about is, Paul, I have always wondered this. For some reason, I have been under the impression that every time a team in the SEC, let's just take the SEC with 9 bowl appearances this year, that the television revenue is divided equally among the teams in the conference, whether they play or not. My question to you is this true? How is it divided? The television revenue, does it go to the head office, to the commissioner's office?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's bowl revenue is a little more complicated. I'm not going to answer until I get a little better. I don't want to go off on a tangent here and be wrong, but I'm pretty sure everyone gets a share, and then the conference gets a share.
Okay,
I believe that's
didn't know
correct.
if it went to the NCAA, then they take that little greasy hand out of it, or if it goes.
The NCAA does not get its hand in the college football.
Well, like I say, I just was hoping. I didn't know if each team in every conference that they're involved in gets a slice of the pie.
Well, what happens here is at the end of the year, every team gets a dollar amount. I do think if you're in the college football playoff, you get significantly more than if you're in the bowl game in Shreveport, for the sake of argument.
The Independence Bowl.
Okay,
well,
didn't know
I
if
can't
you saw
remember
it last
what was
night.
the sponsor
Mississippi
this year.
State walked through Oregon.
I'm sorry, because
it was remember when it was the Duck Commander Independence?
Yeah,
I did that game.
Oh, it was a Duck Commander.
And all those Duck Commander guys were there. Uncle Cy was there.
So you got to know them?
Not really. They really didn't have time for me, but I am a big fan of theirs.
I'll tell you, I was at it was actually Tim Tebow's benefit a couple of years ago, and who was does anybody know the Duck Dynasty names? There's Cy.
Cy and
Who's
Willie.
the guy with the beard? Willie. Is Willie the guy with the beard?
Willie's the main guy with the beard, and then there's Jace and.
Does Jace have a beard?
I think they all have beards.
Well, here's the funny thing. So
Phil.
Anyway,
Phil's the dad.
There's one that's really the least known of the group. I don't know his name.
Well, that would be Jace, I think.
Well, I'm not even sure he's on the show.
All right.
But he's like one of the guys.
Yeah.
So I run into, I think it's is Jace pretty well known?
No, Willie is well known.
Well, I run into Willie or somebody like in the men's room. Okay.
You always run into people in the men's room. It's so odd.
So the guy goes, "Hey, I'm like, well, I mean, it's one of those like you're trying to act like.
Who are you?
I mean, he knew me, and I knew he was one of the Duck Commander guys or whatever. So. What are they called again?
Duck Dynasty. I don't know. Honestly,
the Duck Dynasty guys.
Yeah.
So I sit down. I walk in. I sit at my table, and I don't really. I know the person next to me because she's Tebow had introduced me to her. So I'm talking to the guy. I say hello to him. I do not remember his name, and there's all these celebrities everywhere. So I say to the guy next to me, I say, "Hey, I just met one of the Duck Dynasty guys in the restroom." He goes, "I am one of the Duck Dynasty guys."
Oh, no. Paul, foot and mouth.
He was like, he's fairly well known. He was on the show, and then he took a sabbatical, whatever. But, I mean, I felt like just a total idiot.
Yeah, well, hey, any more names you want to drop?
Well, I
just dropped about everybody's name, known to man. That was good, though. I like that. I think that probably they all know who you are.
Yeah, well.
I bet they're big fans of yours.
For one day only, I hope they're not watching. George Schroeder is a name I know. If I ran into him in a mall, I would know him. Good friend. He'll be with us next. Welcome back to the program, the show.
Your show.
That never ends.
Yeah, no, we don't want it to end, especially not with George Schroeder here.
George Schroeder, I was reading his column today in USA Today about college football and some of the coaching hirings, and he joins us now. Come on down, George.
Glad to be here. I don't know where I'm coming, but I'm here.
Yeah, well, good to have you. I'll start with the coaching carousel because I thought you made some really interesting points. There were some really good decisions and some pretty epically bad decisions. You had Chip Kelly as the winner overall. That wasn't too hard to figure out. Take us through some of your best and worst.
Well, I mean, listen, I think Chip Kelly, if you're UCLA, you made the decision early. You fired Jim Mora, and you went directly after the guy you wanted. And had they not gotten Chip Kelly, had he, let's say, chosen the Florida job, then I think UCLA might have been casting about trying to find, okay, who's better than Jim Mora. But they did get him, so they clearly knew they had a shot at him. And, it's no secret that he was the hottest available candidate ever since the day that the 49ers let him go last January. So I thought that was an easy no-brainer. I also thought this. I know I mentioned Florida. They ended up with what, and you know how this goes. Nobody's ever going to admit this. But Dan Mullen was essentially their third choice, and I think it's a great hire. And so I also gave them an A, too. I think it's a great hire. It's also an indication of how a coaching search can go. That was the best available job. You don't always get the guy you want, even when you have the best available job. But if you have a plan, you can still end up with a really good hire, and that's what they had. So I thought that was a good one. On the other end of the spectrum, I think, is at this point at least, and I'll be happy to be proven wrong, is the idea of Arizona State firing Todd Graham to hire Herm Edwards, who is a tremendous man and knows a ton of football, but hasn't coached anywhere in a long time and in college for almost 30 years. And then when you add that to the fact that they apparently are going to try to they're going to reinvent the college football program wheel in how they do it, and he's almost sounds more like a GM than a head coach. It just gets weird. And so I had them at the other end of the spectrum. I didn't give anybody an F because there's no way to know on these things. But that one felt like a D to me.
Yeah, George, really fascinating stuff. And I think we'll look back on this year and see these grades that kind of everybody's giving and just see how it all ends up playing out and just wonder. Yeah. But when you think about what happened this year with so much change, do you think we ended up with almost a shortage of coaches available for some of these jobs?
Yeah, I do think so. And I actually thought maybe one or two of those might not open up for that reason. But, yes, I mean, when you look around at sort of who the candidates end up being, I'll give you one example. So Oregon, which, by the way, may be the most unlucky program in each of in the last 12 and a half months. They get rid of Mark Helfrich. Chip Kelly's not available because he's still with the 49ers, or I think he might have come back to Oregon. And then a month later, after they've hired Willie Taggart, he gets, his walking papers from the 49ers. So then Willie Taggart, late in the coaching carousel cycle, gets the Florida State job because obviously Jimbo had gone to Texas A&M. And now, had Chip been available, they'd probably get him again. Scott Frost might have been their coach had Nebraska not been out looking for a coach this year. And instead, they suddenly are up against the early signing date, which is a piece of this. It's really changed some of the coaching carousel, at least this year. And they end up going with a stability hire with Mario Cristobal, who was, on staff as a co-offensive coordinator. I'm not saying that's not a good hire. It might turn out to be, but it's a far cry maybe from what the Ducks thought they could have gotten. And I think that speaks to what you're talking about maybe a dearth of candidates, at least at the end of the cycle.
George, I want to talk about a story that we got a little more clarification on today. About a week and a half ago, the story broke about Rodney Anderson out at OU. And at first glance, it looked like maybe it was deja vu all over again. It didn't turn out that way. I want you to take us through the storyline here, because if you're an Oklahoma fan, it had a fairly good result today.
Right, and let me just start by saying, obviously, and I know you believe this too, that football is the least thing in this situation. But Rodney Anderson, the Cleveland County District Attorney, Cleveland County is where Norman, Oklahoma is, declined today, announced that he declined to pursue charges. And he went further than that. It wasn't just one of those deals where we don't think we have enough evidence to actually make a case. He actually said, and I think I'm going to get this quote right, definitely the charges were not warranted in this case. And they had a thorough investigation between the Norman Police Department, this is his word, thorough, and the district attorney's office, and determined that they did not believe that the allegations warranted charges. And so basically what happened is Rodney Anderson apparently met a woman at a bar, a former Oklahoma student at a bar last month. They ended up at her apartment. Things happened. She seemed happy, according to testimony from her friends in police interviews, tried to pursue a relationship with him several times, and at the time that he stopped returning her texts, she went to the police and filed for an emergency protective order, and then this investigation began, and this was about 3 weeks after the alleged incident. So I don't really know. As the district attorney said, the alleged victim may believe that things happened that she did not give consent to, but all of the evidence pointed to Rodney Anderson having been innocent in this case, and so they declined to pursue charges.
Yeah, you never know how some of these things are going to go, George,
That's
but
right.
Interesting the way this one ended up playing out. And when you look to the football field in the college football playoff, what is your take, first of all, on that Rose Bowl that we'll see Oklahoma and Georgia playing in it?
Well, I know everybody's excited about Clemson, Alabama 3, and I get that, and I get why. But to me, it's a fascinating clash of sort of football culture when you get to Oklahoma versus Georgia. So that's the one I'm more excited about, at least for now. Whoever we get in the final will be tremendous. And I actually think all four teams could win. This feels like that for the first time in the maybe that we've got a situation where there's no real clear favorite. I guess people would say Clemson. But Oklahoma with that offense, Georgia has a really good defense, and obviously they want to grind the ball on offense. And I just think it's a tremendous culture war. I'm really, really looking forward to it. You get the whole Big 12 versus the SEC narrative and all that kind of stuff. We get another look at Baker Mayfield and his antics, and frankly, his performance on the field, which is, outweighs the antics. And so that, to me, is the more intriguing of the two semis.
Finally, to flip that around, how do you think the nation would react to an Alabama-Georgia final?
Well, it would be interesting. I know that the folk on your network would be really excited. I don't know how the rest of the nation would feel, but let me say this. I think it would be a lot different because, in the week and a half or whatever it's been now since the field was announced, there really hasn't, there was some minor controversy about whether it should be Alabama or Ohio State, but we really haven't seen a lot of people really upset about having two teams from one league or two teams from the SEC specifically. So I don't think that if you end up with Alabama and Georgia, it's going to have the same shockwave on the one hand and just sort of people being upset on the other hand that we saw when LSU and Alabama played that rematch back after the 2011 season. I don't think it's certainly not going to change things in terms of like, we need to go to 6 or 8. But I haven't sensed that people are going to get really upset about it because I think with 4 teams, there's a sense that everybody gets a shot to play in there. This is not a deal where Oklahoma State was left out, and a lot of people were like, well, hey, why didn't they get their shot? These two teams will have won their way in.
That's a good point. Yeah, it wasn't just gifted. Hey, George, thank you very much. If we don't talk to you, have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you very soon.
Thanks, George.
Yeah, hey, thank you, guys.
Great stuff. George Schroeder, one of the truly class sports writers in the country from USA Today. We'll take a break, get your reaction to all that, 855-242-7285. More to come on a Thursday. Welcome back in as we continue here on this Thursday afternoon. Joe is up next. Joe, go right ahead. Hey, Joe.
Hey, sorry, Paul. This is Joe. Sorry I haven't called you in the last couple of days, but I've been doing something that you said I couldn't do. I've been swallowing a lot of loss. And I didn't want to tell you nothing about it. But I need to make some apologies. Yes, I am retired, and I am retired from one of the professional teams in America, and we don't lose, so that's why it's hard to take a loss. But I need to apologize to Miss Laura. How are you doing? This is the first time I've ever got to talk to you. I'm sorry I didn't get you that job. I tried hard to get you that job, but I couldn't do it. And I need to tell Mark that after I listened to the tape, I didn't mean to sound like I was trying to be a butt to him.
Don't be a butt now.
I just wanted to, he asked me why my picks and selections. I don't give my picks and selections to anybody because I found out some guys were using them to bet, and I didn't like that. And I was just trying to bait him into just a friendly competition thing. And what I called for was, Paul, I heard you talking about your hole-in-one the other day. After I retired, I went and got a degree in golf course management and turf management, and I was on the course I built my way up to supervisor and superintendent, and we had a tournament coming, and it was supposed to start at 6 o'clock, and they told me it was going to start at 6:30. Well, at 6 o'clock, I was out running the course, and I was in the rough, and I picked up a ball in the rough, and you ain't supposed to do that, but the tournament hadn't started. And then it come out to be that this elderly old man come chasing me down and said that that's his ball. And I know nothing about golf. I know nothing about golf players. I just love working the course. And so everybody said, well, you need to get his signature, get his autograph. I'm like, okay. So now, have you ever heard of a golf player that his name is Zollie? I have no idea.
Fuzzy Zoeller?
Yeah.
He's a pretty famous golfer. He won the U.S. Open.
Do you have his autograph?
I don't have his autograph. Well, thanks for that. He's also pretty famous for probably one of the great faux pas in golf history when he made fun of Tiger Woods not long after, right before he won the Masters, and it pretty much came close to ruining his career because he lost a bunch of endorsements.
Yeah,
he was a very funny, popular guy. He was never funny after that.
You can't make fun of Tiger.
Well, yeah, no. But
at that point, the way that he
what
did
he said
was really
was
bad.
outrageous. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I actually, I was about 5 yards away from him under the oak tree at Augusta when he said it. He was just rambling along. People,
oh, really?
And I can't say I was listening very closely because I didn't really care what Fuzzy Zoeller had to say. But you could tell he got on a roll. He was entertaining the masses, and he just went off the rails.
Yeah,
and he paid a terrible price.
You should have
for
stopped him in his tracks, Paul. What were you doing?
I didn't know him very well.
Yeah, come on, Fozzie.
I think his real name was Forrest. Forrest Fuzzy Zoeller.
Okay,
great golfer in his time.
Good name.
Becky is in Mobile, Alabama. Hello, Becky.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Laura.
Hey, Becky.
I have a couple of questions for y'all. I would like to know y'all's opinion on Jalen Hurts. Can he throw accurately into tight coverage under pressure? The second one is, has either one of y'all seen any improvement in Jalen's passing game from last year's national championship to this year's passing? All my Bama friends and family call me Helen, as in Helen Keller, saying I'm not seeing that he's like the greatest player in college football today, and I'm just not seeing it. I don't believe that Jalen can pass, and I'd just like to know y'all's opinion on it.
Well, Laura, you've covered a lot of Alabama football. You were at the spring game, so you saw him there, and you've seen him all year long. Has he progressed?
I think he's progressed. I think there are still people who would say that he could be better in that area. He's still a sophomore, by the way. And he continues to show why just being dynamic as an athlete has been beneficial to Alabama's offense. Now, their offense, it obviously sputtered a little bit down the stretch there. I expect them to be much better offensively in this game against Clemson. And yes, Jalen Hurts can throw into tight coverage. He's proven that before. I can think of a specific pass in the Mississippi State game where he was able to charge down the field, and he was throwing into majorly tight coverage and completing those passes. There are times where you can get frustrated with him, and I just don't think it's warranted. So I would be in the category of Becky's friends who say that Jalen is – I just think there are some Alabama fans that don't appreciate him as much as they should.
Joe, what about you? How are you?
I'm doing good, Paul. How are you?
Excellent.
And how are you, Miss Laurel?
I'm great. Great to hear from you.
Well, I'm on the Jalen Hurts bandwagon. I think he's getting better, and I agree with what you said, Laura. He's just a sophomore, so he done went through a lot in just 2 years to just be a sophomore, more than most quarterbacks have. And but are you going to be covering a game this weekend, Laura?
I am not this weekend. I'm covering a game next week, so I'll be with Paul on Monday and Tuesday next week, and then I actually head to the Bahamas. I'm doing the UAB game. I'm really excited about it, actually. Not just because it's in the Bahamas, but
yeah, Joe. While she's heading to the Bahamas, I'll be right here in the wintertime.
I'll be sending you photos of me poolside.
I just blocked you on Instagram.
Oh, okay, whatever. Yeah, you don't have an Instagram. If
well, you do.
Oh, I do. Yeah, and then Joe, after that, going to the Sugar Bowl. So, and Paul and I will be there together.
Oh, well, cool. That'll be good. I can't wait to watch it.
Two of us in New Orleans, Joe, sounds pretty dangerous.
Bourbon Street, let's go.
Yeah.
Are y'all going to have a Finebaum film room for that game?
Yeah, it has not officially been announced
really
yet, but
one.
yeah, there will actually be 2 film rooms this year.
Breaking news.
Well,
Boop.
Well, those are the ones I like to watch.
Yeah, there'll be one for the Georgia game and one for the Bama game.
What a great day it's going to be.
And I was going to tell you, Paul, my campaign's kind of hit a roadblock. It's I'm having endorsement problems. Donors, and I just don't want to say that.
See you in a minute, Joe. This week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Laura Rutledge is here, and we're happy. I mean,
this is great.
You were here for like a minute Monday, then you had to.
I didn't like Monday because I just feel like Mondays
are for you.
We commit to being together, and
Saturdays
I had to
are
leave.
for the boys and girls.
They better be for the girls too. You know what, Paul? I heard you one time say they were for the boys, and I haven't quite forgiven you for that.
That's okay.
They can be for everybody, though. Saturdays are even, for people's pets.
When you're at a campus and the frat boys are desperately hoping to videotape you say that, you say what they want.
Yeah, you love the frat boys when we go to campuses. I've noticed this. You really pander to them a little bit.
I do.
I think what we should do for a goal for next football season, and back me up on this, people out there, we should get Paul to crowd surf one Saturday before a game after SEC Nation, or maybe even before. Would you crowd surf for real?
I will do anything.
I think you would get pretty far out in the crowd. Some people don't get very far because they're too heavy, but he'd be able to lift you up.
What I really like most is when people lift me up.
Raise you. What is it? What's that song? Raise You Up?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm forgetting how to sing it, but anyway.
We'll have Mr. Jones come out and give you the Sunday announcements.
Okay. Anyone on the phone lines?
Yes, there are.
Let's talk to them.
Man, you're like one of these producers.
Come on.
I mean, I'm just
take some calls.
Taking my time here. You're rushing me through the show. Eric is up next in California.
Hey, what's going on, Paul? How you doing, Laura?
What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to ask, you were talking about the family, and I wanted to see if this diehard USC fan, Pac-12 guy, could get adopted into the family.
Get in
if
here.
I could tell you
Get in the family. You're already part of the family.
All
for
right,
calling in.
I want to tell you a little story real quick. When I lived in Ohio, about the time Hurricane Katrina hit, I had a friend of mine ask me, he said, "You want to make $1,700? We're taking trailers down to Lake Charles, Louisiana." So when I got there, I went to a restaurant, and I asked the lady, there was a lady of color, and I said, "Man, I've always been hearing about this good soul cooking. I'm from Los Angeles. Can you expose me to it?" And she was like, "Yes, honey." So she gave me some briskets. She gave me briskets and some pork and beans, corn, and cornbread, and it was so good that I had it. At the end, I took a couple plates home to my wife and my son.
That, brisket will do that to you.
My experience was great. Huh?
Yeah, brisket will do that to you. You get addicted to it.
So I wanted to know, me being that, if I could get adopted into the family.
Yeah, you're already in. You're
That's
no
right.
matter what, you're in. We're very inclusive in this family, and we take people from no matter where they are in the world, and especially if you like barbecue. It's important.
That's right. The briskets were awesome. But let me ask you guys a little bit about football, about the USC-Ohio State game. Me being a USC guy, I just really feel like that we're going to win that game. What do you guys think?
Well, USC has historically won that game a lot, and one thing, Eric, I think Ohio State probably had a little more to be disappointed about, although USC should have been, I think, a little more in the conversation on Selection Sunday. The problem is both teams did have bad losses, and so I think that's what ended up kind of leaving them a little bit on the outside looking in, even in the conversation about the day. To me, USC may be a little more motivated from that standpoint. It's hard to say that an Ohio State Urban Meyer coach team is not going to be motivated, but I just wonder, with USC kind of feeling snubbed there toward the end of the season, if maybe that works in their favor a little more. And if you look at it on the field and kind of take the motivation out of it, you've got an edge at quarterback, you've got an edge in a few other positions on the field, and I think if this is in fact Sam Darnold's last game, he's going to come out there ready to sling it and ready to prove something.
Laura, I feel stupid a lot in my life, but I was talking earlier about some of the most famous people in this country, and I think I made a fool out of myself because I couldn't remember. I met the Duck Dynasty guys at a function, and these are, at one time, this was one of the most popular shows in the country, but I couldn't remember which one I had met, and apparently one of them
he's
was
contacted
watching.
us.
Yeah, so did we have this, Mark?
Jace Robertson.
Yeah.
He says, "Tell Finebaum it was me he met at the Tim Tebow bash. The guy he overlooked was Friar Martin, D.C., and for the record, I am way better liked and known than Willie Boss Hogg." Because remember, I was telling you Willie might have been somebody else.
So, Laura,
you met Justin Martin was the other guy.
Yeah, he was, I think, sitting next to me. So Jace, he's one of the most iconic personalities in that family, and I didn't know who he was.
I'm embarrassed for you.
For those who, I think we said that during a break. For the radio people, I'll just tell the story. I was at the Tebow dinner a couple of years ago, and I ran into Jace. Now that I realize it, in the men's room. So I sat down. For those who missed the story earlier, and everybody's saying hello to each other, and there's major celebrities everywhere. The band Perry was like one table over. A lot of baseball players. I rode over with I think Marcus Allen and Archie Griffin, who won 2 Heisman trophies. Archie is Griffin? I can't remember his name now.
Griffin. You've got me confused.
I don't know what his name.
Yeah.
He'll tweet at me now.
Yeah, come on.
Which one is it, Mark?
We're making mistakes all over the place. Anyway.
3 Heismans between the two of them. So I sit down, and everybody's talking, hey, look who's there. And I tell the guy next to me, I said, you'll never believe, I just met one of the Duck Dynasty guys in the restroom. He goes, I am one of the Duck Dynasty guys. So anyway, we'll put this tweet back up on the screen. This is Jace, who's one of the better known of the Duck Dynasty guys. So I
think he was the first name I listed off, and I'm not as cool as you to have met them the way you did. Now, I did meet them at the Duck Dynasty Independence Bowl a few years ago, but wow, Paul, you have really been schooled today on this.
I have an expertise with a certain group of people.
Yeah.
Like,
who are those people?
Senators, Supreme Court justices, television network executives, but I don't know much about the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think we need to get you some more free time so you can be a little more familiar with some of these celebrities.
We have been together and have met fairly well-known people, and I'll tell a story about my wife if you want. I don't think I've ever told this story. We're at a party a couple of months ago. Actually, I knew the person this time.
Oh.
Have I told you the story? So we're at a party in near Malibu, and it was supposed to be a lot of the Hollywood elite. So my wife, heard Piers Bronson was going to be there, or Warren Beatty. She's looking around. This guy walks in. I said, this guy that walked in is the biggest star at this party. She looked, and she clearly did not know who he was. So he's walking around, and I see him eyeing me, and I'm going, there's no way. You've been there.
You guys had a moment across the room.
So he looks at me, and he's walking over to me, and I'm like, it's kind of like, are you looking around? This guy is not walking
You're
over
looking
to me.
over your shoulder, so he surely couldn't be looking at me.
He stops, and he's right in front of me, so I said, Larry, I'm Paul Finebaum. He goes, I know who you are. And we started talking. I introduced him to my wife, and she still didn't know who he was.
Okay, who is he?
Larry David.
Oh, well, that's a big deal.
And
okay.
So we're talking, and he asked me, he said, do you live in L.A.? I'm going, no. I said, how long have you lived here? Oh, then my wife said, I want to say, at that point I want to say, no, don't say anything. She goes, well, you live here? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah. He said, I moved out here 25 years ago. And I know what the next thing he's about to say is. He said, he looks directly at Linda and goes, we had a TV pilot. And I go, well, how'd that work out? And he just cracked up. For those who don't know the punchline to the Larry David story, he was the creator of Seinfeld.
Yes.
And I had to explain that to him.
But you have to be now. I don't meet many people who are not Seinfeld fans, honestly. But you would have to be a pretty intense Seinfeld fan, I think, to know that, or at least to recognize his face.
You would know Jerry Seinfeld, but
right.
And again, so since then, Larry David has with Curb Your Enthusiasm has been on television 8,000 times. He's on Saturday Night Live playing Bernie Sanders.
And now Linda probably sees him.
And now she goes why didn't we get a picture? I said, because you didn't know who he was.
You're not somebody, though, that when you meet people like that, you don't usually take pictures.
I never do.
That's not you.
And rarely, if it's a former president, I might, which I've told that story. But and he's, Larry David is a fairly well-known person, but she had her eye on far more famous people at this party than him.
Yeah, well, but to you, he was the most famous. By the way, I'm getting some suggestions on Twitter that you should join the Duck Dynasty look with a big beard. Have you ever had a big beard before? Because I think you have.
Yeah, I've had a beard, sure. You think I could go Jace?
Well, Jace, maybe Jace will tweet us and let us know, or call into the show and let us know the key to keeping that so well manicured. Yeah, I think that's important. You can't let it get too unruly.
I had a beard for a while, and I will tell you, it was a pain because you have to take care of it.
And what did you do to take care of yours?
On the way to the radio station I worked at, there was a barber shop, and I would literally stop there once a week and have them trim it.
See, I don't ever look at you and think that you would grow a beard. I don't think you have that much. It looks to me like you don't have that much facial hair possibilities.
I don't know how to break this to you, but I could probably grow one before the end of the show. We will be back with much more after this. Billy Liucci joining us.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applaud your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I'm still getting Jace Robertson is still humiliating me on Twitter.
Yeah, well, good for him. Billy Liucci would say...
Billy Liucci would never do that.
He would. He would say, excuse me, Paul Finebaum, you better know who I am.
Billy Liucci from Texas. Billy, would you know Jace Robertson if you ran into him?
No, I would not.
Okay. Oh, come on, Billy. Billy has facial hair. Not quite as advanced as Jace.
He's one of the Duck Dynasty guys.
Oh, Robert, I should have known that. I mean, heck, Trevor Knight was dating her.
Billy, I didn't ask you who the president of Turkey was. I mean, I thought this was a pretty easy question.
Wouldn't it be amazing if I knew who that was?
That would have been funny, yeah.
I can't say his name.
But anyway, glad you're here. We were talking during our break about the bowl game. This is such an ESPN SportsCenter-like question, but I'll ask you because I've never asked one. What is the level of enthusiasm from Aggie fans for this game?
Not as high as it is for Jimbo Fisher's first game next fall, or not nearly as high as it was for the snowfall last week in College Station, I guess. That's a good matchup, though. I think A&M needs to worry about that Wake Forest team with, the transition here at A&M and what they're doing. Gosh, that's a tough one for them, I believe.
Yeah, Billy, we were talking about how maybe this is an opportunity. Well, it certainly is an opportunity for some of these younger players and really anybody on this A&M team to kind of prove themselves to Jimbo Fisher with the extra bowl practices and everything around that. You know this team really well. Who would you identify as maybe some guys that should impress Jimbo?
Well, I think the number one on that list that he'll be watching most closely, as you guys know Jimbo's history, I think it's going to be Nick Starkel, the quarterback. I think that'll be the one that he'll probably have the most watchful eye on to see how he performed, and wouldn't have surprised me if he was watching, the last game or two that A&M played with the way these things go. But Starkel, and I would honestly say that offensive line, because they return it a lot on defense. Offensively, though, is where I think, that's his background. They know they're going to have to score points. They know they're going to have to transition to a more power-oriented offense. So I think he's going to have to go out and recruit the tight ends. As far as the linemen and quarterbacks go, he's going to be keeping a real careful eye on what they do in that game because, quite honestly, I think he's got a tough decision on where do you go? Do you go recruit a quarterback this year, or do you wait till 2019 when they've got the number one guy in the country already committed in Grant Gunnell?
That's pretty interesting. Billy, let me back up for just a second because in watching the A&M coaching search, it was both stealth and seamless, and Scott Woodward looked like he knew what he wanted, and he went out and got it, unlike some others. Give us some backstory on this in terms of what really went down.
Well, I think Scott Woodward, my best description of it was I said it was a very gangster-type coaching search. He did it he did it by himself, which, Paul, you've come to realize it's very hard to do at Texas A&M. And I think his political background in the state of Louisiana, that's kind of his background before he got into the athletic side of things. And I think that paid off so much because he was able to handle all of the personalities, whether it's the Board of Regents, or the Chancellor, and the university president, and the powerful alumni, and he got everyone on the same page to kind of say, let me do this. I've got the guy. I can get him. I promise you I can get him. And let me do this. And then also you had to convince all those guys that 10 years, $75 million was the play because, you weren't getting a coach of his caliber. I mean, when you look around, you see guys like Mike Gundy turning down $50 million. It seems like a lot, but to get a guy like Jimbo Fisher, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, Urban, the national championship coaches, it was going to take an obscene amount of money and a long-term commitment, and you had to convince everyone of that too. So I thought Scott Woodward was brilliant in this thing, and when you think of that and you go back to when he got, left Boise, Idaho with a signed contract from Chris Peterson after he had turned down, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and got him to UW. I mean, those are two of the most significant hires in college football in the last 5 years, at least, and certainly two of the most difficult to make. So he certainly earned his money. He just did it in quiet, and I think he had that. I think he'd been working on that for a long, long time in terms of laying the groundwork that needed to be laid. Some would say dating back to his appearance on your show last summer.
That seemed like a turning point, certainly, Billy. And I'm with you. I think that Woodward put on an absolute clinic in this. And the $75 million and all the money that's paid certainly brings great expectations. What do you think is realistic for A&M fans to expect as early as next year?
Next year is the interesting one because after that, I think you can ratchet the expectations up as high as you want. And Jimbo keeps saying you can't exceed my expectation. But you look at Kirby Smart in year 2 there, and you look at around the country what certain coaches have done in their first 3 years, and I think they hired him to compete for SEC titles, playoff berths, national championships, and along the way win a certain number of those, and I think it'll happen pretty quickly. I don't think it's going to happen in that first month when you've got Clemson and Alabama among your first 4 games, but I think next year, the guys, y'all know this, coaching changes, the timing of them are always very important. Kevin Sumlin benefited. Mike Sherman did not. Dennis Franchione did not. I think Jimbo Fisher is going to benefit from the timing of it because they return a lot of guys, and they've still got a young football team. They've got a great class from last season. All those freshmen that played look good. He's going to cap off this one, and then he's got that honeymoon class of 2019 that'll be almost done before he coaches a game. That foundation, Sumlin left a good one that can quickly turn great. I think this is going to be a football team that next year by about, mid-season, teams in the SEC, don't want to deal with. I'm not saying he's going to have a Gus Malzahn year 1 where he's playing for it all, but I do think this is going to be a legitimate top 15 football team next season.
Billy, finally, let's talk a little bit about his staff that he is putting together. Where are we, and what is your impression of it?
Well, he's basically done on offense. With the additions of I'm forgetting his name now. The guys Tim Brewster,
right,
and then from North Texas,
Dick. Is that
Daryl Dickey.
Yeah.
I keep saying Dooley is what I keep doing.
It's hard not to.
I've made the same mistake.
What is he doing these days anyway?
I think he's with the Cowboys.
They did not hire Derek Dooley. But Daryl Dickey and what he did at Memphis and to come over, and he's already made a pretty big impression. And his Texas roots go back so far, and A&M roots. He was a GA at A&M. That's where he started his career under Jackie Sherrill. So I think that was a good hire for the state of Texas, and you look at what Memphis has done offensively. He fits into Jimbo's scheme. He's going to keep, from everything I've heard, he's going to keep Jim Turner, the offensive line coach. And then you hired one of the nation's best recruiters in Tim Brewster, and his reputation precedes him. He's already kind of hit the ground running, not just in Texas, but nationally. And Jay Graham and Damien Craig coming over with him from Florida State. So that side of the ball is done. I think he went out and handpicked exactly who he wanted on that side of the ball. The only name that came up that's not here was James Coley from Georgia, who they made a run at and ended up staying up there as wide receiver coach. That's the only name that you even heard outside. So he really was getting his pick of the litter there on offense. Defensively is going to be really interesting because right now they're going to keep Terry Price as a holdover. And I think, Paul, without knowing specifically who it is at this point, I think they're possibly as early as today going to finish out and close out a deal with the D coordinator. So I think you'll start to see those dominoes fall really quickly on that side of the ball as well, where whoever he hires will probably bring a guy or two with him, and this staff could be wrapped up pretty quickly.
Always great to catch up, Billy. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks,
Always.
Billy.
I can't remember the Turkey prime minister or the offensive coordinator.
Get some research in on
Turkey.
Come on.
Right, guys,
Billy heard the word turkey. He lost the train of thought. He thought he was about to eat.
Stop.
Billy, thanks for the time. Good stuff from Billy Liucci from TexAgs.com. We'll take a break. More of your phone calls when we come back. A little thing at the grocery store and get my picture made. Welcome back to the program. We had Scott Hamilton on the program a couple of weeks ago talking about the Heisman and the top 25. He is a voter. And it's always good to welcome you back, Scott. Hope the end of the season has been well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paul. How you doing, bud?
We're doing great. Laura Rutledge is here, and we have a lot to talk to you about. Certainly the Heisman's, there isn't much to talk about there. Maybe one of the least interesting Heismans, but I do want to get your thoughts first of all, we actually were talking about Wake Forest a minute ago in the against A&M. You're certainly not too far removed from that part of the country. Is that a game that Wake Forest is interested in?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a chance for him to take another step under Dave Clawson. What Dave Clawson is incredible, Paul. I mean, this is a guy who won 3 games, and then they got that breakthrough winning season last year, and they just keep trending upward, and they're doing it with offense. I mean, I saw some putrid things the first couple of years, Paul. I'm going to go into the putrid. I saw a game against Virginia Tech that I thought would make the forward pass go out of style. I mean, it was terrible, 0-0 at the end of regulation. Now here they are putting up points.
Yeah, Scott, what do you think on the A&M side of things could really do a lot to challenge Wake?
I don't know. You've got to try to change up the coverages, I think. But Wake Forest, though's got a veteran quarterback in John Wolford back there. But he's one of those guys who might try to press a little bit on occasion, who might try to make something out of nothing. And sometimes that can bite him. That can bite him in the rear end. But they're doing a good job of eliminating mistakes. That's Dave Clawson football, man. Control it, eliminate it, do your thing.
Scott Hamilton with us. Scott, I mentioned a minute ago you were a Heisman voter. When you were in here, I believe it was in mid-October, we were talking about the Heisman. And it was a very lackluster race for the Heisman. However, I am interested in who was on your ballot because I've been told that you left someone off pretty significant.
Yeah, the people in the great state of Oklahoma are questioning my heritage. I've heard a few interesting things. I did not put Baker Mayfield on my ballot, Paul.
And why is that, Scott?
I'm glad you followed up.
I'm already I can see they're blowing up here. I'm on the All-American panel for the Associated Press as well, and he's my first-team All-American quarterback. I think he's a fantastic year. I enjoy watching him play, but I don't enjoy all of the. And Paul, I'm sure you agree with me on this because we touched on it somewhat when I visited you a few weeks ago. The Heisman is just you're expected to live up to a certain standard, and I felt that Baker Mayfield did not do that. I mean, we have video of him doing things that Roger Staubach would never do, that Barry Sanders would never do. And I get it. I get being competitive. I get being emotional. But you've got your school's jersey on, and there are certain things you cannot do. I'm not even talking about the arrest last year. That was a non-issue by the time the season had started. It was background noise. But going out there and taunting Baylor, for goodness sakes, taunting Kansas, for goodness sakes, I think it's poor form, and I think it's unbecoming of the most iconic trophy in sports.
So what did your ballot look like, Scott?
Well, I had Bryce Love first. And I think the whole deal could have been much closer, Paul, if Love had been healthy the entire year. I think he was a phenomenal player. Lost a little bit because of the whole West Coast late time thing. But I had him first. I had Lamar Jackson second. Has anybody ever had a repeat season after winning a Heisman that got less attention than what Lamar Jackson did? I thought he had another incredible year for a team that was actually worse than last year. And then Johnson, Auburn, had him third. I realized how valuable he was in the SEC championship game because when he's not 100%, that was a totally different Auburn team. So those are my three: Love, Jackson, Johnson.
What I mean, I have a lot of friends in Oklahoma too, so I can guess how they have reacted. What have you heard from them?
This is a family show, Paul. I can't do that. I can't do that. No, they're upset. And think about this, and this is a question you guys discuss as long as you want. Is Oklahoma the school that we should look at now as being a quarterback factory? Because they've been putting out a lot of award-winning quarterbacks in recent years. Not necessarily NFL-caliber quarterbacks, but Heisman Trophy-winning quarterbacks. We don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott, because, and especially in Baker Mayfield's case, he was a walk-on. He walked on 2 places, and they were able to get him to the point of what he's doing now. I think that's a point that is probably worth getting out there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up at the age of the triple option and Charles Thompson and Jamel Holloway, but that was a long time ago. This is a team that has been throwing it up and down the field for a couple of decades now, and Baker Mayfield had perhaps the best statistical season of any quarterback we've ever seen when you break it down. Maybe Oklahoma's the quarterback factory.
Back to your decision. Listen, you have every right to vote for anyone you want. But was this a protest vote not putting him there, or did you really just not believe he was the best or most outstanding player?
Now, see, most outstanding player, though, Paul, I think there's a plurality to that. You have to be excellent on the field in the way you perform and excellent in the way you behave. You'll go to the Heisman website and it clearly outlines.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, and your sportsmanship is a part of it. Sportsmanship is a part of this award, and I just felt he was lacking that. I love his game. I love his story. God bless him in the NFL. I hope he has a fantastic career, but I just was not putting him on my ballot. And I spoke to a couple of other voters that had him not first, but had them on their ballots. And I said, look, by just having him on a ballot, your second-place vote, your third could, possibly, not likely, but possibly be what determines the whole thing. I wasn't going to take that chance. I just didn't feel he was Heisman worthy.
Well, listen, that is always the dilemma, and I must confess, after his second incident, I was concerned about it, but he did apologize. You didn't buy that tearful apology, Scott?
we're a society that's really good at apologizing over and over and over again. It should never have gotten to the second or third incident. Not in my mind. I'll give you one. I mean, the arrest was one thing. We're all making mistakes when we're kids. I'll give you two. And you maybe say something to the other team that's inappropriate. But when you got two, I just think it wasn't enough to keep him on my Heisman ballot.
Good to catch up. It sounds like Baker's trying to get you off the air with the gremlins in your cell.
Baker sent some stormtroopers to Scott's phone.
Baker's coming after you, Scott. Hey, thanks. Appreciate
He's giving out my cell number. That's what.
Watch out.
We're about to as well. Only in Oklahoma, though.
Norman, we just tweeted it to him.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, we'll see you soon.
Scott.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate it, guys.
Good to hear. Listen, we'll talk about it in a minute. It's his right. He has a vote. He can do whatever with it he wants, just like voters in elections can write in Nick Saban if they want.
Yeah, and like we said, we'll dive into it a little deeper, but man, Baker Mayfield should have won the Heisman. That's it. It's as simple as that.
We will come back. Welcome back to the program. We'll have more on all these other issues. Let's grab some phone calls, though. It's been a while. Todd is in New York. Todd, good afternoon.
Hi, how you doing, Paul?
We are doing great.
I'd like to say hello to Miss Laura.
Hello there.
Yes, I'm a first-time caller. I tried yesterday, but I was on the phone line for about 65 minutes. Had to go to midweek church service and leave.
Well,
I'm glad you tried again.
You did the right thing, by the way.
Yes, and I totally forgot you guys are on the SEC network, which I get through, and I don't want to mention it because it might be advertising for the.
Oh, go ahead.
The DirecTV.
Oh, we like DirecTV.
We like them.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, if you get SEC Network, we like whoever gives it to you.
DirecTV was one of the most important entities to come on board on the SEC Network.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really nice to have all the stuff. I'm a huge college football fan, so I'm jumping back and forth. I've got two recorders. My wife goes, oh, boy, it's Saturday, People will come over and say, no, he's engaged in football. I actually used to officiate high school football, work playoffs work playoffs, and actually it was Rich Stadium then, which is where the Bills play. But a couple of things I wanted to comment on, and then I'll get to the main thing. First of all, you were talking about brisket, and right now I actually have, and up here where we live in southwestern New York, we got about a foot of snow, so I have a crock pot with about a 3-pound pork loin with a nice apple seasoning going for it.
Oh, my goodness.
That sounds delicious. Sounds like that smells really good, too.
Very, very much. And the other thing is, couple quick stories. When I was a young boy growing up, there was a gentleman that was a freshman in college here, St. Bonaventure University, when I was a freshman in high school. Got to know each other pretty well. He'd come down. I live in basically an integrated neighborhood. He'd come down and he'd visit people down below us, and the family across the street from us, his dad put a basket up. And we had guys in the neighborhood, like 6'1", 6'2". They could dunk, but they couldn't dunk down by the basket because it tapered down to a drain. Now, not like a regular drain, but one of those straight drains with the little notches in them, right? So to catch it at the end before it goes into the garage. Well, he'd come down, he'd play with us. He's the only one that could dunk it. He didn't really have to jump too high. And that gentleman's name was Bob Lanier.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. In fact, his coach from from Bonas back in the day, who played for Bonas, Bob Sassola, and he lived about 3 houses
Didn't St. Bonaventure make the Final Four one year?
Yes, they did, and that's the year Lanier got hurt on the tartan surface. Of all things, he gets hurt on a tartan surface, and a few years later, Bonas puts it in.
Right.
Tartan surface, which was the worst thing to dribble a ball on. You had no bounce.
Yeah, no, I've been on those. Where I went to school, they had one.
Yeah, even guys with hops would complain, we can't even jump on this stuff. But the other story is I was 13 years old, had a gym teacher, John O'Malley, and he says to us guys in junior high, he says, listen, he says, I'm a graduate of Notre Dame. He says, I'm going to have one of my friends come down. He goes, if you want to come down to Franchot Park, I'll be down there about 9 in the morning. Well, I woke up that Saturday morning, and a lot of the guys thought he was joking, and that it's only like 5 blocks from my house, so I walked down. Played catch with this guy for about hour and a half. About a dozen of us showed up, and this gentleman turned out to be, of course, his former roommate, and at the time he played for another franchise, but he turned out to be a starting Super Bowl quarterback, and his name was Darryl LaMonica.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, small town with big things. Pictures of my kids with Mickey Mantle when he came to visit. But
one of my heroes.
Yeah, one of my heroes, yes, very much so. But what I wanted to talk to you about is one of your favorite subjects. Oklahoma boy. His dad actually named him Mickey after Mickey Cochran, which was, of course, the catcher for the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how he got the name Mickey.
No, I grew up on the Yankees. My dad was a Yankees fan. So
Mel Barber and the whole shebang. Yeah. But anyway,
Barber, Mel Allen.
Yeah. So, anyways, my topic is going to be Brian Kelly, which is one of your favorite ones. I have been a Notre Dame. Yeah.
Let's go, Todd. This is good.
I have been a Notre Dame fan since 1964 at 12 years old, and that was Hewitt to Snow, right?
Later on, Hewitt won the Heisman.
Oh, yes. And, here's a man, and when you say that, you think about Ara Parseghian, because the thing is, here's a man who comes in as a coach, immediately starts changing people around, and you have a guy who basically had thrown, maybe 1 or 2 passes, and he picks him and says, you're going to be the starter, and the guy wins the Heisman. He just had that knack of knowing who could do what. And I think Nick Saban has a lot of that, too, in him. I really do, that he just knows. Yes, he gets top talent, but he knows where guys can perform well. But anyways, getting back to Brian, for the life of me, why does he want to stick? And I give all the credit to Brandon Winbush. He's a great kid, a great demeanor, a lot of talent, to the point where Kirk Herbstreit said during a game this year, I've seen him make all these throws. But if you go, and I don't know if you guys can access it real quick, but there's a website called irish.nbcsports.com.
Yeah.
And as you go through that, Doug Farmer writes articles, and I go, afterwards, and I check out the next day or maybe even that evening if they had a day game, his articles. And if you go to the Stanford game, there's 2 pictures of Brandon Winbush. And in one of the pictures, he actually is stepping towards the receiver. Now, they've got him isolated, but he's holding the ball like a right-handed Sandy Koufax pitcher. In other words, his elbow is out away from his body. His upper arm is perpendicular to his body. He's holding the ball with his hand open to the line, and the points of the ball are parallel with the line of scrimmage. The next picture you see of him, he's actually standing with both feet together, facing the line, ball's in the same position in the arm. I showed this to a couple of football coaches, and being an official too, you notice things. Every time they're wondering, why does the ball tail, why does it float? It acts just like a slider as a right-handed pitcher would throw a slider to the left in baseball. Well, it's because of the way he's holding the ball. He has to come across, he pushes it, then comes across his body and snaps his wrist. Well, lo and behold, what do you think the ball is going to do? And like I say, you got a guy like Jake Fromm who improved greatly since we played them. And the thing is you want a quarterback, if you're going to build a power running game like Brian Kelly said, it's not dependent on how well your quarterback can run. It's dependent on how well your quarterback with passing can keep the defense honest. And down the stretch, Winbush just was like a deer in the headlights. And it's like if he's great in practice, but he's not great in the game, How do you correct it? Well, one of the big problems is if you look at those pictures, it's mechanics. It's not more repetitions. It's more perfect repetitions. Now, I'm hoping that he improves by the time we play LSU. But, to me, if you've got a backup quarterback that can pass, then open up the competition again. That's what it's supposed to be all about in college anyways. It's competition against each other. I mean, you're bringing in these kids, these recruits. I mean, they're starters where they came
Thanks so
from.
much for the call.
Beautiful.
This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
The delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
We have Todd was with us. Is Todd still talking?
Well, Todd might not finish before the LSU game is played. You know what? In there, with his points about the way that Brandon Wimbush's arm angle and arm slot was similar to Sandy Koufax and how a slider would tail to the left. Wow, he's put a lot of thought into it. That was a call.
We got a call from Sandy Koufax.
Sandy on line one saying, don't you dare put me in the same conversation as Brandon Wimbush. Come on.
I mean, Sandy's one of the greatest pitchers in the history of the game, and he's being compared to Brandon Wimbush.
And not really in a positive way. Sorry, Sandy, you're way better than that.
Let's move along. Jim is in Charleston on this December day. Hello, Jim.
Hi there. Happy holidays from beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. I was about to hang up on Todd. I got a text message earlier this morning that the Lane train was rolling through Hollandale, Mississippi last night.
Really?
Looking for young players.
Oh, young players.
You know where Hollandale is, don't you?
I think I do, yes.
It's down Highway 61 out of Memphis.
Highway 61 revisited.
Yeah. Can I tell you a real quick hole-in-one story? You've been talking about yours.
Let's hear it.
I'd love to hear it.
Real quick. Was dating a young lady, been dating her, I'm in my 60s, was dating an age-appropriate lady, Laura.
I like it.
And so, Jim, what is an age-appropriate lady for someone your age?
Well, we're not going into that, Paul. This is a golf story.
Just giving future reference.
We've been dating for a while, came in on a Saturday night. She sat down and said, Jim, we need to talk. Well, I knew that wasn't going to be good.
Not good at all.
Pretty much don't let the door hit you in the fanny when you leave.
Oh, sorry, Jim.
You're a nice guy.
I work at a big golf resort here, and I went to work the next day, and I was kind of moping around and everything, and the pro said, go out and play golf. So I went out with all my friends, meaning I was by myself, got on a long par 3 over the marsh, 192 yards, dropped a 7-wood in the hole for a hole-in-one.
Oh, my.
Wow.
Nobody saw me.
Oh, my God.
If that isn't a sign, I don't know what is, Jim.
No, I never want that to happen.
One of the maintenance workers came running out of the woods. He saw it. I took him back to the maintenance shed so he would verify that I made the hole-in-one. And, Paul, I had to push the envelope. On the way back out to finish my round of golf, I called up this lady and said, I figured out what's wrong with my golf game. And she says, and what might that be? I said, apparently you. I just made a hole-in-one.
You had the last laugh, Jim, and a hole-in-one. I thought you were going to tell us you won a car, too, or something. A lot of times if you get a hole-in-one, you win something.
Well, Laura, I couldn't pay the tax if I won anything.
So, Jim, I take it you didn't get back together with her?
No, I did not. She moved on as well as I did.
Well, most women, and some men, depending on the intensity, will tell you that I've had ladies tell me that their husband's golf game is far more important than anything else.
Well, I've been a bachelor for 25 years, Paul. So about all I have is
I have a story, but I'll tell it some other. I had to stop myself.
Oh, you did?
Now, Paul.
No, that surprised you.
What a bummer.
You need to come down here to Kiowa and let me take you out to the ocean course to play golf.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was at Kiowa this past summer, and I did not play golf, and it killed me. I love that place.
It's beautiful.
I've
There's
never
some
played at
great
Kiowa.
golf in South Carolina.
The
that's
ocean
for sure.
course, Laura, is where they had the PGA a couple of years ago and the Ryder Cup.
It's beautiful.
And it is one of those fabulous golf courses. It's right there. I mean, there are some treacherous holes on that course.
Jim, my whole family is South Carolina people. They're all from parts of South Carolina, so at least on my mom's side. So I think we have a special connection because of that.
Well, we're having the 2021 PGA at the ocean course again.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will definitely take you up on that because I could never afford the green fees there. You are paying, aren't you?
Jim's going to get you in the back way.
I got connections.
Okay, let me ask you, because I've been in the pro shop there. We were, what does a round of golf cost at this golf course?
At the ocean course?
Yeah, it's like $300, isn't it?
Yeah, about $300.
Okay.
It's not like Pebble where you have to stay 2 nights in the hotel.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
Man, even $300 though. That's
but Laura, I think that's just
$300
for the greens fee. That's not for the caddy or the golf.
No, you got to give out
some
tips
included,
too.
Ball and range balls.
Okay. I just want to make that. I'm in then as long as you pay.
Well, can I come too?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, come on.
You don't
have another highlight of my career, Paul.
I
got the caddy for Arnold Palmer 5 days at the ocean course.
Did you really?
That's pretty special, Jim. How was he?
I was putting the clubs in the car the last day, and I said, Mr. Palmer, if I get hit by a bus on the way home, it's been a good life.
Yeah.
He said, Jim, caddying for me at this point in my career ain't that big a deal.
That's pretty funny.
That's great. Was he fun to be around, Jim? I'm sure he
was.
was.
He was great.
No.
He was great. He was great.
I've been around him a couple of times. Never as a caddy.
On the tour before, but
he's funny, isn't he?
This is 2001.
I mean, this is one funny man in his time.
He's got a great sense of humor, at least from the clips
unbelievable.
I've seen. I've never been around him, but
hey, Jim, thanks. Really appreciate that story.
Hey, y'all have a happy holidays.
You too.
I'll see you at number 1 in a couple of weeks.
Okay. You're just over here setting up celebrity appearances. You got Jace Robertson tweeting in. You got Jim getting you on the golf course. I mean, my goodness, what else do you want to set up today? Oh, we also called out Larry David. I mean, we're trying to wait and see if he's going to call in and talk to you.
He probably will. He's a big sports fan.
He should.
University of Maryland grad.
He's a big fan of yours. So.
Well, yeah. I know that surprises you that somebody might be a fan.
Well, it used to. Now it doesn't anymore. I don't even understand people anymore.
It's worn off.
Yeah.
Let's go to one of he may be my favorite caller of all time, Bobby in Birmingham.
Yes. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, Bobby. Just to hear your voice.
Yeah, how you doing, Lyle?
Oh, my goodness. I'm better now.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. College football.
Right here.
Yeah, what's wrong with old Scott Hamilton?
I don't know. He just kind of woke up. He woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, apparently.
Well, you need to tell him this is America.
It is America. America the beautiful.
Right, we grew from
the sweet land of liberty.
Yeah, we grew from the White House to the outhouse.
Ooh.
We grew from Wall Street to K Street.
K Street, Georgetown.
Yeah, it ain't nothing but a thing. You know what I mean. Just like Laura might not remember, but you remember when everybody was doing the twist. Come on, baby.
Come on, baby.
Let's do the twist.
Come on, baby. Let's do the twist.
Oh, yeah. I could see you doing
Is this the twist?
Yeah. That's
Chubby Checker. You remember that, don't
Chubby
you?
Checker. I know about him.
Now, he did do the twist. Now the Beatles did Twist and Shout, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
No, that was the Islander brother.
Well, the Beatles did a version of Twist and Shout.
They were ripping off the
They were ripping
Islander
off. Well, the
brothers,
Beatles
though.
ripped off everyone.
Well, that's what works so well.
Yeah.
Chubby Checker. I have
Chubby
a funny
Checker
story about him.
was great.
Yes, sir, Bobby.
I heard you say earlier, if you played, you'd play that last bowl game, you wouldn't sit it out.
No, I'd play in it.
Well, Laura's a player.
Well, but what you got to realize, Laura, some of them boys, grandma and grandpa, ain't never smelled the inside of a new car.
I understand that, but that's why you have insurance policies you can take out of
Yeah,
yourself.
but you won't. Well, if they ain't never smelled the inside of a new car, they can't pay no premium on no inside.
You just got a new car, didn't you? Is the new car smell still there?
Well, I had some not raw.
This week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
And we welcome you to what day is it?
Thursday? It's Thursday.
Yeah,
I don't know what day it is, though.
You've been all over.
I never do.
Man, welcome back.
It's good to be back with you. I will admit, Monday was weird not being here because I obviously I missed you, but I just missed everybody. I mean, it was weird. I felt very empty on Monday, so I'm glad we could do this today.
You had to head off to a mandatory company meeting.
I did. Somehow, it's weird. You got out of it.
I did get
confused
out
by
of it.
that.
It was yesterday, and they felt like
well, you're just too important.
Someone needed to be here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were here, and we appreciate you for your service on this show.
Thank you. I was apparently the only person out there, though.
By the way, yeah, you really were. You have decorated this studio very well, Paul. I'm impressed by your holiday spirit and the way that you have put out so many poinsettias. I mean, it feels very...
Have you
very festive
have you put up your Christmas? Because you haven't been home probably in about a month.
I have a fake tree up, which I will say there are people out there that would judge me for having a fake tree. I can't.
Why be concerned about that?
Well, I don't care exactly, which is why I just own up to my fake tree, and I like it. I think it's good, and that's about all I have going. I have a fake tree, a couple wreaths.
We have a wreath. Is it a wreath?
Wreath. Did you put an F on the end of that?
I don't know what I put on it.
Okay, good.
We have a wreath on the door.
Oh, nice.
A wreath, not a reefer.
I hope not. That'd be interesting. We're off to a good start.
We have a wreath.
Yeah. Okay.
On the door. Although what are the round things called?
The balls?
The balls. One of the balls fell. I jammed it back in so my wife wouldn't blame it on me for slamming the door too hard.
It was definitely
Anyway,
you.
we have a really big show on tap. George Schroeder. But he has a reef on his door, too. Billy Liucci. Scott Hamilton. Damien Harris will be by later. We love Damien. And your phone calls at 855-242-7285. So, you've been up in the great Northeast?
Yeah, it's a little chilly up there.
I bet it wasn't that warm.
I am a Southern girl, born and raised, and so I try to tough it out in the cold, but I'm just not quite built for it. I try, and it just... There was a moment yesterday in Bristol, Connecticut. It said that the wind chill made it feel about 6 degrees. I think it felt about -6.
Yeah,
and
that's a cold place.
We were trying to talk, and you know what happens when it gets really cold? I know you've experienced this before. Maybe TMI, but you start to have boogers coming out that you can't even feel. And people were having that, and you don't know if you should tell them.
That's why I wear a mask when I'm in the cold weather.
Yeah, no, you do. Yeah, you have to. And your lips are so numb that you can't talk, and you just sound a mess. But it was good. I'm glad to be back, though, in the South, where I would say where I belong.
We're glad to have you back.
Yeah.
And it was just fairly mundane without you on Monday.
Well, I've heard that Jim was wanting to call in and talk to me, so I'm wondering if he's going to call in today. I'd love to talk to him if he wants to call in and speak about anything.
I'm glad you want to talk to him.
No, I do. Yeah, I hope we hear from him. I hope we hear from everybody. I can't wait to hear from as many people as want to talk to us today.
So are you wearing something different today?
I'm wearing a necklace that Millie sent me. Paul, the last necklace that Millie sent me, you stole and gave to your wife, which is fine. I understand that.
I mean, she didn't know. Well, actually,
you regifted it.
I haven't given it to her yet. It's under the tree.
I hope she's not. I hope Linda's not listening. But anyway, so Millie, thank you very much for this.
Linda doesn't even know we're on right now.
Well, neither does Josh, but I really love this necklace, and I appreciate Millie for sending that. It's such a kind gesture, and it happened to match what I was wearing today. I would have worn it anyway when I opened this letter from her. It was great to put on. So we love the Finebaum family.
We will grab some phone calls here, and we start with this guy's. To me, if you ever were starting a program, a radio show, this would be my host. Listen to this guy's voice. Hugh in Deep Gap, North Carolina.
Paul, you are entirely too kind, my friend. I appreciate that. Can you hear me all right? I'm working a new phone system here, and I'm not sure it's all that great.
You sound great, Hugh.
A couple of things. I've been watching or listening and watching your show when I have free afternoons. And the whole discussion about all of these young defensive coordinators that are made head coaches, I've sort of got an observation. I think they have a difficult time resting the proper assistant coaches to forge good offensive schemes and the ability to keep them accountable and retainable. And it seems to be much more difficult for defensive coaches than offense coaches. I think, and I am a Kentucky fan, graduate, love that school, but I think Tennessee has made a really good decision in bringing back the football godfather of the Tennessee program in the old coach, because he has sufficient standing with a lot of young coaches to maybe help Coach Pruitt come up with good people and put them on the right track to keep them accountable. I know in Kentucky's case, they've had 3 sets of offensive coordinators in 5 years, and it's kind of a miracle in some ways that their offensive line and Benny Snell has managed to lead the Southeastern Conference in yardage gain between the tackles. And if they had a passing game to go with it and some defense, they might be good. But anyhow, that was my thought for the day. I would really like for you to check with Booger and Big Swagoo about a question that I have about defense at the college level. Kentucky's been trying to run a 3-man front, and the truth of the matter is, whether it's the Locke kid from Missouri or the new kid playing down at Ole Miss, if you've got a quarterback that can high point the ball and deliver it, you give them 6 or 8 seconds back there, they're going to kill you. I don't care how good your defensive backs are. And I'm really disappointed that Coach Stoops, as a defensive specialist, hasn't been able to resolve those difficulties.
That's a great point. Hey, Hugh, thank you very, very much for the call. Brings up some interesting points.
Right. And, I mean, the differences between 3-4 and 4-3 is so much of it is personnel-based, and I understand what he's talking about. But the problem is these types of defensive linemen that can really make a difference in a 4-man front just do not grow on trees. You're not going to find that many of them. You know, Alabama finds a lot of them, obviously, and you see a team like Georgia having them. I think it's something that's difficult to do. I was actually recently talking to Coach Stoops about just some of the recruiting challenges that they have there in Kentucky. He wasn't making excuses, but they're not able to pull from the same talent bed. So you kind of have to make your scheme around what you can do best with the personnel you have on your team. So I think that's where a lot of it comes into play with trying to decide whether you're going to go 3-4 or 4-3. But he's right, Hugh, is that you become susceptible to guys who can throw the football and to receivers that can create separation if you're relying on your defensive backs to do so much. But, I would still say that what Kentucky has done with the challenges they face from a recruiting standpoint, they should have beat Florida this year, but they have still done admirably well, in my opinion, with what they're up against.
More phone calls here. Sheriff is up next. Hello, Sheriff.
Hey, man.
How are you?
Paul, Florida, how y'all doing?
Great. How are you?
Oh, man. If I got any better, I'd need a twin brother. Look, Laura,
you'd be a what brother?
I would need a twin brother.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
Listen, Laura, you know why Jim won't debate you, right?
Oh, why?
Because you're smarter than him.
Sheriff, Jim would tell you that is not true because he's the smartest.
Well, Jim will also tell you that he played golf at the Tuscaloosa Country Club.
Yeah, you missed this yesterday, Laura. Jim called and said he had just gotten back from the golf course. So I just naturally asked him where he played.
Yeah.
And he said the Tuscaloosa Country Club, which made sense to me. I haven't been to that place in about 10 years, but we later found out it closed a year ago.
Oh.
So Jim was not telling the truth.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, that's odd.
Jim's kind of like a garbage truck. He's full of crap. How about that?
Well, maybe he got. Well, Sheriff, to be fair, guys, maybe he got confused about where he was. It happens to people sometimes.
Maybe he got confused because it was the pineapple on his pizza.
Yeah, that was another thing we talked about yesterday, but we'll skip that for today.
Well, Sheriff, how's Reeltown today?
Hey, but look. I was looking for Jim to come through and play at the Reeltown Country Club, but
pressure on him?
Well, I think he's
had pressure from Ohio State and even from TCU.
Yeah, I mean, he's
actually played some.
But we're SEC. I mean, they were
hold on a second,
needs.
Alex. In Ohio State, he saw one of the better defensive lines he's going to see all year.
Okay.
Georgia's D-line is one of the better D-lines in the country, too. But I would just be careful, Alex, in thinking that Baker Mayfield hasn't seen great defenses this year, because he has a couple of times. That said, if Georgia plays the way that they played against Auburn in the SEC championship game, it could be a tough day for him. The one thing about Baker is he's used to having so much success, and he's used to being able to lead this offense very quickly down the field. If they're able to frustrate him, maybe get him into a few 3-and-outs, I think you could see him maybe be frustrated, which would help. Maybe he tries to force some throws in that scenario.
Millie, you're on with Laura.
Well, hi, Laura. How are you doing?
Hi, Millie. Millie, I'm great. It's great to hear from you.
Oh, great. I hope that, did you get my letter today?
I did. I'm wearing the necklace that you gave me right now. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, the turnover chain. I love it, Millie. That's so kind of you. Thank you so much.
Well, they lost your other one, so I wanted you to have something.
Millie, that was my fault.
Yeah.
I've atoned. I've gone to confession, and they told me there's no help for me.
Yeah, there isn't. But
well, I just wanted you to have something. I've got so much
disappoints me
because
Millie, I bought Laura a necklace just like that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to wear Millie's instead of the one that you bought.
Okay, well, thank you. I
put mine back in the Cracker Jacks box.
The reason I missed a little bit of your show because I go to, as I wrote in the letter, on Thursdays, I don't get a chance to see you, and from 3 until 6, that's the only time I see you. Because I go and I pray for you guys all the time.
Oh, my
We
goodness.
have a prayer
Thank you, Millie.
and you guys are always on the prayer chain because you guys travel so much, and I worry about you guys getting into problems and all,
Well, we do get into a lot of problems, but we just sometimes weasel our way out of them.
Yeah, well, I figure God needs to be on your side.
Pray for Laura, Millie.
Pray for Paul.
Laura's got a much more strenuous couple of months ahead of her than me.
Listen, I not only pray for you guys, but I pray for your spouses, too.
Well, that's nice.
Well, they may need more prayers than we do, having to put up with us.
Which is driving me crazy, because I don't know what your spouses look like, and it's driving me up the wall.
Oh, well, we could get some photos up of them.
Yeah,
we'll work on that.
Why don't you guys have your spouses
you would like my wife,
with you?
Millie. She's a very prayerful person,
Well, I love
too.
her already, even though I don't know what she looks
She's
like,
amazing.
And I love your husband.
Yeah, no, he's wonderful. He is very great.
Actually, Laura's husband's my best friend.
No, Paul and Josh really do get along well. They have a lot in common. They really do.
Is Josh?
His name is Josh. Yep.
Okay, great. Now I'll know what to call him when I write letters instead of anything else. I know Linda. But
What were you
calling?
Josh. What were you calling him before, Millie?
Well, I was just calling him Mr. Rutledge.
Well, he is Mr. Rutledge.
You can still call him Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's so good to be able to talk to you guys. I missed you Monday when, And so, by the way, I hope next week you guys get your Christmas cards that I sent.
Oh, thank you, Millie.
Thank you so much, Millie.
What I do I know you may think it's kind of strange, but I put it all in one
No, that's
envelope.
good. That's good. Because
Anyway,
I'll make sure
I know
Laura
you're
gets
busy.
hers.
I know you're busy and everything, but I just want to tell you, all four of you guys, how much I love you guys. And if John and Mark is there, just tell them that they're loved.
We'll let them know. We'll pass it along. Millie, you're the greatest. Oh,
they're
where are they?
not here right now.
They're not here.
Which
That's
is
odd.
They have not been here much today.
What are they doing, those two? They're just like having a hot chocolate break or something? I mean, at least if they are, maybe they could bring some in for us.
Their contract, thanks, Millie, their contract calls for them to take 15-minute breaks every hour.
Remind me to get that written into your next contract. I'm going to work on that for you.
There's a lot of questions about that right now. We will take a break, come back with more of your phone calls. Minute ride.
Right.
Welcome back to the program. Adrian Collins Jr. talking about he's with UCF, talking about the bowl game coming up against Auburn.
Otis said yesterday that he thinks it's going to take a lot of speed for you guys to go up against Auburn's defense. What do you think it's going to take to up in Auburn?
Almost definitely. SEC football, they don't have a lot of speed, honestly. So Auburn hasn't seen any speed like we have here. So I would say they're in for a rude awakening because UCF football, we're UCF fast and UCF fierce. So defense will play 11 hands to the ball, fast and furious, and offense. we got a lot of guys who can go up and get the ball and make you miss and make big plays.
Thanks, Adrian. Yo, Adrian.
Whoa. Whoa.
That was a line from one of the Rocky movies, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, I'd be careful saying there's no speed like in any league.
Yeah,
I don't think there's always going to be speed. There's incredible talent across college football. And I don't know, let me show you Christian Kirk. Let me show you, now I'm trying to think of all of the fast players, but there are some, Josh Jacobs, I mean, my goodness, Calvin Ridley, like there are so many incredibly talented, quick players. And let's just talk about Auburn alone. I mean, my goodness, did you see Kerryon Johnson this year? We're not talking about 40 times, by the way. We're talking about game speed that actually matters. And, there's plenty of speed in the SEC. Oh, by the way, there's a lot of speed defensively too. So
no doubt.
That was not maybe the smartest move, I would say.
Well, again, it's the first interesting thing that's really kind of happened in this game since Scott Frost left. So it will get a lot of attention.
It'll get a lot of attention.
Probably won't matter much, but it's certainly a throwing down the gauntlet.
Boom. No speed in the SEC.
Let's grab some phone calls here. And Jerome is up next in Alabama. Hello, Jerome.
Hey, Paul. How you doing today?
We are doing great. Thank you very much.
Got a little scenario question for you. All 4 teams are if they get to Atlanta. My question is, if Alabama and Oklahoma meet up, with Alabama's defense coming back strong,
let me just stop you for a second, okay?
Okay.
And I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
You're an Alabama fan, right?
True.
Is there not enough about the Clemson game that interests you that you would already look ahead?
Oh, I'm not looking ahead of Clemson.
No, that's not my question. But why would your mind be on that? I mean, I'm really curious. I'm not admonishing you or anything. Everyone has a right to ask questions, but I'm fascinated by the mindset that an Alabama fan who's coming off of a really bad end of the season would be.
Oh, we have to beat Clemson first. No doubt.
I just wanted to make. By the way, you're not playing the game, so you don't have to be psyched up. You were just asking an analytical question. I was just interested in why you were thinking about that.
Well, I'm thinking if Alabama and Oklahoma were to get to Atlanta, let me put it that way.
Okay.
If Alabama's defense could maybe be their defense.
Okay. Well, the answer to the question is, Jerome, the answer is I just don't know because I haven't given it one second thought.
They could. I mean, he's asking if Alabama's defense could cause turnovers against Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure they could. And like I was mentioning about the Georgia game that Oklahoma will play before if they were to get to the national championship. By the way, Georgia is a tough opponent in and of themselves. Maybe you put some pressure on Baker Mayfield. Maybe you make him uncomfortable. You force him into some 3-and-outs. He hadn't played a football game in about a month or whatever it's been. It's just hard to count him out either way, no matter what defense he's playing against. But, hey, Paul.
Yeah, I had to text one of my bosses.
Okay, got it. But yeah, I think you're right.
I thought you could handle it.
Well, no, I was, but you were on camera, so I didn't want to do anything weird.
Still had to do it.
Yeah, no, you did. I'm glad you did it. I just think you're right. We're in a dangerous territory here if you're a fan of any one of these teams looking ahead of these semifinal games and looking ahead to the national championship. And it's hard not to do, right? But I will admit I'm having an incredibly hard time deciding who I think will play in the national championship because you can convince yourself one way and then you say, well, wait a second, how are they going to get past
these are
this,
two
this,
even
and this?
games.
They really are, which is what we want. That's how it should be.
Steve is up next in West Virginia. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Hey, Miss Lawrence. Glad to see you.
Great to see you or hear you. I guess I can't see you.
Hey, Paul, I got a couple questions for you. Does Eli Gold still do the Alabama games?
Oh, most certainly, yeah. I mean, he's been doing them forever, and
he's one of the best.
He's outstanding. Mm-hmm. Great friend of mine.
Okay. I have another question about, is there any way if I get put on hold and give you my address, you could have them send me an autograph?
Yeah, but I think there's a better way. I'm trying to think. Let me Okay, just do that, and I'll try to get it to Eli. How about that?
Okay, thank you very much.
I figure I'd save the time that way.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Touchdown, Alabama. I love when he says that.
Eli Gold, for those who don't know, he's been doing the Alabama games close to 30 years, and he gave me my first one of my first radio jobs.
He did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He sure did. He helped me get started in
How
radio.
did that go down?
Not well.
Oh, you weren't good?
Well, I was not very good, no.
Oh, really?
I was a little too controversial.
Oh. That surprises me.
Yeah, I know it does. I didn't know there was supposed to be a filter.
You're like, wait, what are we talking about here? I'm supposed to be on here to say whatever I want.
Absolutely. Just like our next caller.
Hey, you're better unfiltered, by the way. Anyway.
One of these days, I'm going to be unfiltered again. Larry is up next. What do you say, Larry?
Hey, how about it, Laura?
Hey, Larry.
How you looking? Prettier every time I see you, girl.
Oh, goodness. How's your day going?
Oh, it's good. Kicking like a chicken.
I like that.
Look, I like it, man. You spouting it out about college football and the speed. That's what impresses everybody about you. Check this out. That comment you made when Bama had all them injuries about a chicken wire defense put together with chicken wire. You remember that?
I don't think anybody remembers that, Larry.
Oh, yes, she did. She said Alabama is playing with a defense put together by chicken wire. So, and I thought, man, that'd be cool to put on a T-shirt, but the chicken part, Larry, I just didn't like that.
Larry, is there a question anywhere here?
Yeah, I'm talking, Paul.
Larry,
Say
do you ever
anything I want.
Larry, do you ever make your own T-shirts?
I was thinking about putting one, but that you commented about the chicken wire, but I don't know about the chicken.
Yeah.
But I have a friend that does. He makes me a shirt with Larry from Shelby at Paul Finebaum, and I strut around with that around the neighborhood.
I think I might need one of those.
Yeah, man, it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, his name's Doug. He does that stuff, and he don't charge me nothing. I love that. But what do you think about Big Ten John taking a shot at Bama? You know, it's nice.
Yeah. Laura, I don't know if you know that John Hayes was not happy about Alabama getting in the playoff.
Right.
Yeah, I knew that. I found that out.
Yeah, and so he takes it on himself to take a shot.
John Hayes,
Bama.
you around today, or you
Where
still
is
here?
John? I saw John earlier, but
I
think maybe
get up there and,
John could be on a smoke break right now.
Yeah, I wonder
He
what
might
kind of
need it.
smoke. Smoke.
John, there he is.
Hey, John, you have anything to say, Larry? Here?
Taking a shot at Bama, excuse me for just putting facts out on the table and calling it like I see it, Larry.
Yeah, why don't you call this like you see it,
Last
Jack?
time I checked.
How about Ohio State?
Last time I checked,
they lost
Larry.
31-0.
I'm thinking of what Ohio State did in their final two games.
Hey, how about this?
They beat
Jack?
Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game.
Championship,
Bama
right?
is
Beat
better than
Michigan.
that.
Yeah.
The last two Alabama
Their
games.
rival, right? Their rival. They beat their rival.
Hey, 1 second, Larry. Okay, Mark Kubiak, are you there?
Yeah. What's up?
Mark.
Mark, do you have an update on Bear Bryant's bowl?
Still 7-1 from 65, 73.
You're dyeing his beard red to try to be an Irishman. That's pretty pathetic.
Hey, I will tell you this, Larry. The only hair dye on this show is in my hair. No, everyone else here is au naturel.
Well, Lord, look, he knows what
That's
he's
not your
doing.
natural hair color?
Well, I'm not really sure what's going on at this point, but it's not. Anyway.
What is your natural hair color?
I think it's more like yours.
Bald?
Yeah.
Bald, yeah.
Hey,
Larry, you really took it to Big Ten John. You really told him.
Well, he won't look. He's running like a little.
Told me what, Larry? What did you tell me? Let's go, Larry. What happened in Alabama's last game?
Put it on the table, Jack.
What happened in Alabama's last game against Auburn? What happened?
We lost, but it's right.
So
they beat Mercer the week before.
The only loss we had.
Point
That's right.
on yesterday's show was
we
Alabama's
was banged up,
limping
and the
into the
committee
playoffs.
said, we are better banged
and
up
figuratively.
than
Hey, you know
the
something,
Big Ten
Larry? This is unique that Alabama is carrying a losing streak going into the college football playoff. That hasn't happened before.
Yeah, that's the anti-rat poison.
Well,
I think
you're
Nick Saban
right.
probably
You
likes
know
that.
what, though? Lauren, you said it right. We get banged up, but Big Ten John won't. He will not accept the truth.
He's bitter.
He's in denial.
Don't worry, we got him a job. He's doing the Big Ten Network's college football playoff coverage.
That's where. Can I come up there and run him out of that stadium? I mean, out of that studio. I'll give me a big stick and run his butt out of there.
Clemson's going to take care of that for me.
The problem.
Ooh, no.
John isn't scared of any big sticks, though. I'll tell you that much.
Really? He ain't had this country boy on him. Hey, listen.
Yeah, John. Hey, Larry. One last thing here. I mean, John's what, 23 years old? I don't know how old.
John and I are the same age.
22.
John's 29 years old. John, Larry, hold on a second. Not trying to cause trouble. But, I mean, John's 29 years old. He works out. He's a weightlifter.
John works out?
I mean, you're nearly 70 years old. You drink 25 Bud Lights a day. I mean, I hate to tell you, buddy, I'm putting my $10 down on John.
No, I'm putting my $10 on Larry because he's a country boy.
Can I get put in jail if I beat down Larry?
I'll come up and slap him around. He knows.
Probably out drinking. Have a little Bud Lights in it.
Hey, Larry, country boy may sound good, but you never been to Philly.
Excuse me?
Philly's a pretty tough town where John's from.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. Them bunch of Yankee Doodles, that ain't tough.
Yankee Doodles.
You're not from South Philly, are you, John?
No.
It would have sounded better if you were.
John's
Larry's
true
lucky for that.
Big Ten Yankee Doodle dandy.
Hey, Larry, be careful. That last time these two clash didn't work out well. We'll take a short break. Coming back with much more.
I want to see this Larry and Big Ten John fight so bad.
Back to the program.
We're taking a call.
Linda is next.
Hello, Paul. Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriend. Oh, were you talking to Paul or me?
I think you're talking to you. She doesn't say that to me.
That's funny, Laura. I'm talking to you, girl. It's been forever.
Yeah, I miss you.
I know I miss you, too. It's been forever since we talked.
Forever and a day.
But anyway, I heard you talking about Zaxby and that famous sauce, and I had to go get Zaxby. So I came back, and I was dipping my chicken fingers into the Zaxby sauce, and then Bobby came on there, was talking about... let's do the twist. So I was a twisting and a dipping at the same time.
I think that your day has been really fun so far, Linda. I'm jealous, too, that you have Zaxby's.
It has been. And then seeing you there on Paul and getting a chance to talk to you for a couple of minutes is just really topped my day off, okay? And listen, are you there, Laura?
I'm here.
Okay. I thought we got cut off. But anyway, I'm very excited about this upcoming matchup between Clemson and Alabama. And with our players coming back, I told Paul the other day, I made a prediction. I usually don't do that, but I'm making a prediction. I think Alabama's going to beat them by at least a touchdown.
Ooh.
With our players.
One more hour. This week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Welcome back. We have reached the final hour of the program, and disappointment everywhere. Ashley starts the final hour off. Ashley is in Tennessee. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
We are doing great. Thank you very much.
Okay, and how is Miss Laura doing?
I'm great, Ashley.
Okay, I've got my uncle here with me, too. He's a big fan of the show. This is the first time calling in. He has a question for you first, Laura.
All right.
Okay, the question is...
Georgia hired Kirby Smart, I think this is coordinator from Alabama.
Okay, Georgia hired a defensive coordinator from Alabama.
Kirby Smart. Then Tennessee turns around, blows everything up, and gets Phil Fulmer to take over as AD, and he hires Jeremy Pruitt from Alabama. Do you see the same tendencies that Georgia and Alabama, Tennessee, is trying to pull in the East?
I think your point is that schools keep pilfering coaches from Alabama and assistants from Alabama specifically, and I don't know that it's a conscious effort of, hey, if you're Tennessee, if you're Philip Fulmer, hey, we saw that Kirby Smart went to Georgia and had success, and that's because he was a defensive coordinator at Alabama. I think it's more about the fact that, first of all, for Tennessee, there weren't a lot of options left, and I still think what they ended up getting with Jeremy Pruitt is a good option. But
the options that I see is this. They're going to play and teach the other teams to play Nick Saban defensively and offensively football, making them the same tendencies. Understand?
Yep.
All right. What I'm saying, Kirby Smart is a very aggressive defensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Pruitt has already said that he's going to put eyeballs to eyeballs. That means he's going to play aggressive defense. What will make the difference in this is the offensive coordinator that Jeremy Pruitt hires. But this shows that they are on the same lane to knock Auburn and Alabama down.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why Tennessee went after somebody who does have ties to Nick Saban. But I would say that Jeremy Pruitt, that hire is more about who he is as a coach and who people think he could be down the road. I mean, Tennessee could have hired somebody like Kevin Steele, who's a little older, maybe a little more established in the Tennessee world.
Well,
they went with the option that made more sense.
I understand that, but that's not Tennessee football.
Well, let me jump in here for a second. And things change though, and I think what Tennessee is doing is they really did not have. Thanks for the call. A lot of great options, and Phil Fulmer did the right thing. He had to end this just embarrassing story, and he did. He ended it quite well, I think.
Yep.
Ron is in Oakland, California, and you are next up.
Hey, good afternoon. Just want to throw out my prediction out there. Everyone's talking about what if Oklahoma loses to Georgia and Clemson loses to Alabama, but I honestly think that the narrative is really going to be that the national title game is going to have no SEC teams at all in it. And I honestly think if you really look at Dabo Swinney, if he wins this title this year, are we talking about he's the best coach in college football currently?
Well, I'll tell you what, Ron, it certainly it will be discussed. I mean, you have to look at who's the best coach on this day or who's the best coach, whatever. And if you beat Nick Saban 2 years in a row, the paradigm is going to shift.
Game tape, everything has been over the years.
Yeah, I think we lost you there on the cell phone, but I think we got the idea.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, you brought this up earlier, though. I think overall you have to say how many national championships have you won. But what Ron was saying is in this current time, would Dabo Swinney be viewed as the best head coach? And I think you could make that argument if, like you said, he's able to beat Alabama back-to-back years. It's a hard one to make because a lot of it, too, is contingent upon who's on your team and
people
how
make snapshots. I mean, when Urban beat Saban, everyone said he's the best coach in the country. You have to be careful in making snapshot decisions, but that's the world we live in, so there'll be plenty of snapshot decisions.
There would be a lot of people to say that. I just don't know if it would be completely warranted.
There'd be quite a difference between the overall titles, and also quite a difference in age. I-Man is up next. What do you say, I-Man?
Well, good afternoon, folks. How y'all doing? I think are we really hung up on who the best coach is? It's obvious that the SEC network knew what they were doing when they hired y'all. I like that word, hard. They hired y'all.
Well, obviously
they've been hard for a long time.
Well, listen, I will say this. I don't think they knew what they were doing when they hired me. I think they had a better idea when they hired Laura.
No, they knew they hired you first.
But my point is, I've never really thought they knew what they were getting when they hired me.
Well, we all knew that, but they didn't. That's the big secret. You're the $70 million man.
Okay,
not
I'm
Jimbo.
about that. Yeah.
You know, wait a minute. You know, when Larry called in, it's always funny when Larry relives his youth, because can't you see him with his James Dean Gray's back hair and his Marlboros rolled up in his T-shirt, you know, dancing to Pat Boone's version of Loose Teeth. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. And don't you think that maybe Millie sounds a little bit like Julia Childs?
Yes,
a lot like Julia Childs.
I tell you what, I wish she could cook like Julia Childs.
I think Millie thinks she can cook like Julia.
As long as she don't cut her finger. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Damien.
Is there something in there about cutting your finger? I don't know. Jeff is in Memphis. Jeff, welcome.
I'm going to tell you what, Paul and Laura. It's hard to follow I-Man and then Larry from Shelby. Come on now. I mean, I think Larry's fallen down on his calling abilities. I don't know about you. What do you think, Big Ten, John and Laura? Is Larry falling down? I mean, it seems like lately that when he calls in, it just...
I think he's getting better with age.
Well, I disagree. I think Larry's calls are pretty much the same every day.
It just depends on, Jeff, doesn't it matter on when we get him?
Yeah.
Like, it matters if we get him earlier
He
in the
never
show
calls
or
early.
later. It's always later. And
he's not a 3 o'clock call.
Nope, he's busy then.
About the 18th bud, right, when he calls?
Right.
Yeah. Hey, Laura, I want to tell you, I just want
This week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
And we welcome you to what day is it? Thursday?
It's Thursday.
Yeah,
I don't know what day it is though.
You've been all over.
I never do.
Man, welcome back.
It's good to be back with you. I will admit Monday was weird not being here because I obviously I missed you, but I just missed everybody. I mean, it was weird. I felt very empty on Monday, so I'm glad we could do this today.
You had to head off to a mandatory company meeting.
I did. Somehow, it's weird. You got out of it. I'm confused by that.
It was yesterday, and they felt like...
well, you're just too important.
Someone
here.
needed to be here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were here, and we appreciate you for your service on this show.
Thank you. I was apparently the only person out there, though.
By the way, you really were. You have decorated this studio very well, Paul. I'm impressed by your holiday spirit and the way that you have put out so many poinsettias. I mean, it feels very...
Have you
very festive?
Have you put up your Christmas? Because you haven't been home probably in about a month.
I have a fake tree up, which I will say there are people out there that would judge me for having a fake tree. I can't.
Why be concerned about that?
Well, I don't care exactly, which is why I just own up to my fake tree, and I like it. I think it's good, and that's about all I have going. I have a fake tree, a couple wreaths.
We have a wreath. Is it a wreath? Wreath?
Did you put an F on the end of that?
I don't know what I put on it.
Okay, good.
We have a wreath on the door.
Oh, nice.
A wreath, not a reefer.
I hope not. That'd be interesting. We're off to a good start.
We have a wreath.
Yeah.
On the door. Although what are the round things called?
The balls?
The balls. One of the balls fell. I jammed it back in so my wife wouldn't blame it on me for slamming the door too hard.
It was definitely
Anyway,
you.
we have a really big show on tap. George Schroeder. But he has a reef on his door, too. Billy Liucci. Scott Hamilton. Damien Harris will be by later. We love Damien. And your phone calls at 855-242-7285. So, you've been up in the great Northeast?
Yeah, it was a little chilly up there.
I bet it wasn't that warm.
I am a Southern girl, born and raised, and so I try to tough it out in the cold, but I'm just not quite built for it. I try, and it just... There was a moment yesterday in Bristol, Connecticut. It said that the wind chill made it feel about 6 degrees. I think it felt about -6.
Yeah,
and
that's a cold place.
We were trying to talk, and you know what happens when it gets really cold? I know you've experienced this before. Maybe TMI, but you start to have boogers coming out that you can't even feel. And people were having that, and you don't know if you should tell them.
That's why I wear a mask when I'm in the cold weather.
Yeah, no, you do. Yeah, you have to. And your lips are so numb that you can't talk, and you just sound a mess. But it was good. I'm glad to be back, though, in the South, where I would say where I belong.
We're glad to have you back.
Yeah.
And it was just fairly mundane without you on Monday.
Well, I've heard that Jim was wanting to call in and talk to me, so I'm wondering if he's going to call in today. I'd love to talk to him if he wants to call in and speak about anything.
I'm glad you want to talk to him.
No, I do. Yeah, I hope we hear from him. I hope we hear from everybody. I can't wait to hear from as many people as want to talk to us today.
So are you wearing something different today?
Oh, I'm wearing a necklace that Millie sent me. Paul, the last necklace that Millie sent me, you stole and gave to your wife, which is fine. I understand that.
I mean, she didn't know. Well, actually,
you regifted it.
I haven't given it to her yet. It's under the tree.
I hope she's not. I hope Linda's not listening. But anyway, yeah. So Millie, thank you very much for this.
Linda doesn't even know we're on right now.
Well, neither does Josh, but I really love this necklace, and I appreciate Millie for sending that. It's such a kind gesture, and it happened to match what I was wearing today. I would have worn it anyway. When I opened this letter from her, it was great to put on. So we love the Finebaum family.
We will grab some phone calls here, and we start with this guy's. To me, if you ever were starting a program, a radio show, this would be my host. Listen to this guy's voice. Hugh in Deep Gap, North Carolina.
Paul, you are entirely too kind, my friend. I appreciate that. Can you hear me all right? I'm working a new phone system here, and I'm not sure it's all that great.
You sound great, Hugh.
A couple of things. I've been watching or listening and watching your show when I have free afternoons. And the whole discussion about all of these young defensive coordinators that are made head coaches, I've sort of got an observation. I think they have a difficult time resting the proper assistant coaches to forge good offensive schemes and the ability to keep them accountable and retainable. And it seems to be much more difficult for defensive coaches than offense coaches. I think, and I am a Kentucky fan, graduate, love that school, but I think Tennessee has made a really good decision in bringing back the football godfather of the Tennessee program in the old coach, because he has sufficient standing with a lot of young coaches to maybe help Coach Pruitt come up with good people and put them on the right track to keep them accountable. I know in Kentucky's case, they've had 3 sets of offensive coordinators in 5 years, and it's kind of a miracle in some ways that their offensive line and Benny Snell has managed to lead the Southeastern Conference in yardage gain between the tackles. And if they had a passing game to go with it and some defense, they might be good. But anyhow, that was my thought for the day. I would really like for you to check with Booger and Big Swagoo about a question that I have about defense at the college level. Kentucky's been trying to run a 3-man front, and the truth of the matter is, whether it's the Locke kid from Missouri or the new kid playing down at Ole Miss, if you've got a quarterback that can high point the ball and deliver it, you give them 6 or 8 seconds back there, they're going to kill you. I don't care how good your defensive backs are. And I'm really disappointed that Coach Stoops, as a defensive specialist, hasn't been able to resolve those difficulties.
That's a great point. Hey, Hugh, thank you very, very much for the call. Brings up some interesting points.
Right, and I mean, the differences between 3-4 and 4-3 is so much of it is personnel based, and I understand what he's talking about, but the problem is these types of defensive linemen that can really make a difference in a 4-man front just do not grow on trees. You're not going to find that many of them. Alabama finds a lot of them, obviously, and you see a team like Georgia having them. I think it's something that's difficult to do. I was actually recently talking to Coach Stoops about just some of the recruiting challenges that they have there in Kentucky. He wasn't making excuses, but they're not able to pull from the same talent bed. So you kind of have to make your scheme around what you can do best with the personnel you have on your team. So I think that's where a lot of it comes into play with trying to decide whether you're going to go 3-4 or 4-3. But he's right. Hugh is that you become susceptible to guys who can throw the football and to receivers that can create separation if you're relying on your defensive backs to do so much. But, I would still say that what Kentucky has done with the challenges they face from a recruiting standpoint, they should have beat Florida this year, but they have still done admirably well, in my opinion, with what they're up against.
More phone calls here. Sheriff is up next. Hello, Sheriff.
Hey, man.
How are you?
Paul, Laura, how y'all doing?
Great. How are you?
Oh, man. If I got any better, I'd need a twin brother. Look, Laura,
you'd be a what brother?
I would need a twin brother.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
Listen, Laura, you know why Jim won't debate you, right?
Oh, why?
Because you're smarter than him.
Sheriff, Jim would tell you that is not true because he's the smartest.
Well, Jim will also tell you that he played golf at the Tuscaloosa Country Club.
Yeah, you missed this yesterday, Laura. Jim called and said he had just gotten back from the golf course. So I just naturally asked him where he played.
Yeah.
And he said the Tuscaloosa Country Club, which made sense to me. I haven't been to that place in about 10 years, but we later found out it closed a year ago.
Oh.
So Jim was not telling the truth.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, that's odd.
Jim's kind of like a garbage truck. He's full of crap. How about that?
Well, maybe he got. Well, Sheriff, to be fair, guys, maybe he got confused about where he was. It happens to people sometimes.
Maybe he got confused because it was the pineapple on his pizza.
Yeah, well, that was another thing we talked about yesterday, but we'll skip that for today.
Well, Sheriff, how's Real Town today?
Hey, but look. I was looking for Jim to come through and play at the Real Town Country Club, but
it said that Urban Meyer was going to Utah. Is there any truth to that? Or?
Maybe he's going out there skiing.
Yeah,
but,
he's not leaving Ohio State.
But he used to be the coach at Utah.
I didn't think he would either.
No, Utah's a really good coach, by the way. He left Utah to go to Florida, but I don't think there's much chance of that. I mean, was that the Yahoo Fantasy page or the Yahoo or
the imaginary Yahoo
or
joke page?
or was it some Yahoo putting that on the internet?
All of the above. How about that?
But the most disappointing part of this rumor, David, is that we have to shoot it down. It would be a lot of fun to chase that.
Yeah, maybe we should just see if anyone believes
Can
it's
you
true.
text Urban?
Put it out
you
there.
have his number, I know.
Yeah, I actually don't have his number, but maybe you do.
I do have his number.
Well, shoot him a
but
text.
He never responded once to one of my texts.
Well, let's try to find somebody who can get in touch with him and find out if he's going to Utah.
I know just the person.
I do too.
JT Barrett.
Tebow on line one.
Tebow's out of the country right now.
He's in Dubai right now. That's correct. He's doing some mission work in Dubai and Nepal, and actually won't be back in the country until Christmas Day.
One of these years, I'm gonna do something worthwhile during. I've always feel like during Christmas that I'm not doing enough.
I know. I feel the same way. Maybe we'll get him to.
You're pretty busy. You got bowl games and stuff. I don't really have anything to do.
Yeah. Well, let's. If you want to come to the Bahamas Bowl with me, you're welcome to. Get out there, get a tan. UAB's in the game.
Yeah. I mean, I know UAB.
You know UAB. Yep.
Yeah.
It's what? Quickly. I do think it's pretty amazing that UAB is getting rewarded with the Bahamas Bowl after everything that program's gone through.
Yeah, no, they needed a really good bowl game.
It's amazing, and these kids who have believed in that program.
I may go down to Miami and take a boat over.
Well, come on. Listen, we'd love to have you.
You've done this game before.
Yeah, will you go down the water slide with me?
Yeah,
the
sure.
Atlantis. Yeah, okay. Do you have a swimsuit?
Yes.
Okay.
About 2 years ago, we went somewhere, and I bought one.
Oh, so you have one?
I have one.
What kind is it?
It's like a goofy looking one.
It's not a Speedo, though.
No.
Oh, okay.
I try to remember my age sometimes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, but you would have worn a Speedo in earlier days.
No, I probably didn't have the physique back then.
Oh, but now you do.
I still don't think I need to start working out a little bit more.
All right. Well, you work out a lot.
Okay. Whatever. Let's get to the calls. I'm just looking at the list here and going to Jimmy in Chicago. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, enjoying that 5-degree wind chill here.
Woo.
Yeah, and still a week officially away from winter. But
we're in the what they call the meteorological winter. That's hard to say after a beer.
I know. Have you had a beer? I was wondering what you were drinking over there.
I got a little.
I can tell it's getting
towards
the end of the show, but one thing though that I find just really interesting about this playoff is that I think anybody that follows college football at all kind of realizes that this is the first playoff in which you have 4 teams that are all fully confident that they can win this thing. They're all coming, I think Alabama it really feels good about the fact that they're going to have some key players back at full speed, like Fitzpatrick, their 2 best pass rushers, Miller and Lewis, who they lost for the season in the first half of the opening game, and then Mack Wilson back. Georgia, obviously, the tremendous momentum they feel after the big win over Auburn, although in fairness, Johnson probably tried to go at 30% in that game. He gave it his all, but, it just wasn't there. But still, just a huge victory. Oklahoma, they've just been on a roll for a while. I think they easily have the best player in college football. I mean, he's just been sensational really for 3 years, but really, really good this year. And then you got, of course, Clemson. They've just been steady. But this Alabama-Clemson game, I think, is really round 3 is fascinating because I think it centers around both quarterbacks. You have a lot of questions about Hurts being able to see the receivers open in time before it's too late. And then with Clemson, one thing that's really been overlooked all year long, and of course their coaching staff knows it, the Alabama coaching staff knows it, is that Bryant has completed very few passes all season long in which the ball's traveled more than 15 yards.
No, that's a great point, Jimmy. I hate to rush. We are up against a break here, but we are coming back with 30 more minutes of your phone calls.
Damien Harris from Alabama, kind enough to join us now, Paul. Damien is like our number one guest all the time. It's like if we can have a guest, let's go with Damien.
We had Jalen on once, and you made fun of his hair, so he hasn't come back since.
Well, Jalen and I are still trying to work through that. It was actually you that made fun of his hair.
Okay.
I was complimenting the hair, and then you ended up getting the hair on your head. Anyway, Damien, we're so glad to have you. What have you been up to, man? It's obviously a while until this game, but a ton of prep to put in, certainly over there in Alabama.
Right. We're just, first of all, we're thankful for the opportunity to play for another national championship. And we know that we've got a tough opponent coming up, and we've just been trying to prepare ourselves in the best way, so we'll be ready for that game.
Damien, I am really curious. You're used to playing in championship games the last couple of years. What did you guys do that weekend, and was it good I know you got in, but do you think the rest will help as you get ready for this big game?
Yeah, I definitely think that the time off will benefit us. We've had some guys banged up, and I think it'll be good for those guys to have that rest and have that time off and time to get treatment. So, we've just been kind of doing our workouts, running, conditioning, trying to stay in shape, and we look forward to starting practice soon. But we're definitely thankful for the time off, and we're looking to play our best football.
Damien, you're sort of the elder statesman of this running back group that is one of the best, if not the best, backfields in the country. What has it been like this year just sharing carries among these guys? Because you have so many different options there who bring different elements to the game depending on what you need at any given moment.
I think it's been a great opportunity for us, and I think it's been good having a lot of guys that can go in and have success. And having guys that can go in and get that experience and get those plays and just kind of feel their way for the game, I think that it'll help us in the long run. We have a lot of guys that can go in and be dependent on to make plays whenever, their number's called. So I think it's been really beneficial for us. And, we're still working hard as a group to continue on and continue playing at a high level.
Damien, I know you're preparing for this game, but the media is trying to figure out a new angle to the third part. It seems this time it's a little bit different from our end, that maybe no one's giving Alabama enough respect or giving them too many opportunities to win. What's it like on your side of it when you hear that type of noise, or do you hear it at all?
No, that's actually the first time I've heard that, but we say it all the time.
Paul's over here just spewing noise your way. Don't let him get in your way, though.
Rat poison, right?
Rat poison.
Yeah, I actually just made that up, Jamie, and see if you would react.
No, but, we're not really worried about what people on the outside say. We know that we're facing a great opponent, and it's a team that we've played the past 2 years, and it's been 2 great games. So we're just trying to play our best football, prepare our best, so we know it's going to be another close game, another good game, and we're just trying to get ready for it.
Obviously, Damien, you want to get into the college football playoffs, so you're not going to sit there and say, well, we'd rather play this guy or we'd rather play this team. But Clemson is such a tough team. They're obviously the number 1 seed. What are your thoughts on having to play them again? And are you excited about the opportunity to avenge what happened last year?
Definitely. That's definitely a way we're looking at it, trying to avenge our loss last year. It was a tough loss, and it's almost like they've become our kind of rivals, if you will. But we know that, like I said, they're a tough team, and they played really well this year, and they've earned that number 1 ranking. But again, it's about how we play. It's about us as a team, and we feel like if we do what we need to do, we'll be capable of coming out with a win.
Damien, what's it like right now? Because most of us our biggest concern is going Christmas shopping. We're not worried about we're worried about getting to the game, but not worried about preparing. So, as a player, this is a long build-up. Take us through what you guys are going through every day.
Just preparing for a game. The holidays are important. Christmas is important, but at the end of the day, we have a big football game coming up, and so we're not really worried about Christmas shopping and things like that. We're worried about practice, lifting, conditioning, doing all the little things that we need to do, watching tape, getting treatment, everything you need to do to help you be the best player that you can be come January 1st. That's what we're focused on.
So, Damien, we asked Coach Saban if he watched the selection show, and he said he didn't because he was busy with recruits, but was able to come back into his office and was told that Alabama was in. Did you watch the selection show? And if so, what was it like for you?
Funny story. So me and a couple of the guys on the team got together and watched it at one of our teammates' apartment, and it was on it wasn't on cable, so we were watching it on the internet or something, like the ESPN app. And it kept freezing every 5-10 minutes, and we knew that right whenever they announced the number 4 seed that it was going to freeze. So right before they announced it, the whole app shut down and froze up, and so we were kind of like, well, what are we going to do? But we heard people outside next door screaming, and then we all looked at our phones and it said that we got in. So we didn't really see it, but we knew that we had got in based on everybody else's reaction.
Okay, I know what you're trying to do. You want me to get you a TV for Christmas, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take one of those.
No, he just promoted the ESPN app. We appreciate that,
Yeah, but the
Damien.
problem is
Good
the app
job.
froze.
Well, yeah, okay, but maybe that was his internet signal. It wasn't the app's fault. Damien needs better internet. Well, his friend's apartment needs better internet.
Quite a few people were watching. With Damien, you missed a good show. I was there for the entire couple hours. But speaking of that, you without having time to, or do you have time for Christmas? I know you act like there's no time, but come on. I mean, you got Christmas presents to get, don't you?
Yeah, hopefully. But we get a little bit of time off. We get 2 or 3 days to see our families and spend time with our families at home and kind of celebrate. But right after that, it's kind of back to work.
We will see you in New Orleans, Damien. We absolutely cannot wait. It's going to be a blast.
Damien, what should I get Coach Saban?
I don't know. Maybe a national championship if you can bring that to us.
I think you could. I think you could help more than I could.
Paul might try to get out there and help, but it really wouldn't do a whole lot. No offense, Paul.
Good to see you, Damien.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
You got it. Even during the break, I mean, there's just not a legitimate choice, and
he's that far ahead of.
Yeah.
And I think we're saying this, Paul, because we don't think it's likely that Dabo Swinney leaves Clemson. Dabo would be the best choice.
Right
if you're
now,
talking
yeah.
right this second in this snapshot of college football over the last couple of years.
I mean, to replace anyone who is that iconic, you need someone who has to be just single focused. And in the great transitions, the best one I have seen in a long time is Lincoln Riley from Bob Stoops. But Bob Stoops, with all due respect to a really great coach, has helped. I mean, he has been like a mentor and a father, and I think that has made the transition a lot easier.
It's also a small sample size.
Yeah,
we're talking 1 year, and
exactly.
with Baker Mayfield, and who is
Bob Stoops did Lincoln Riley tremendous favor.
He did, and by the way, I think Lincoln Riley is one of the best coaches in the country and has a ton more to prove.
Right.
But we've seen this not go as well in other places. I mean, you look at a school like Florida State. Jimbo Fisher comes in and tries his best to fill the great shoes of Bobby Bowden. It's just hard to do. I would even point to Tennessee, Paul, too. I mean, you're looking at the last time Tennessee had true success was with the guy who's currently their athletic director, and all the coaches that have been through the ringer since then at Tennessee. It is so hard to come in one of these places and be anywhere close to great success if it was had before, and if success or lack thereof was not the reason for the firing of the person.
But you look back, and if you go back 20 years, Bill Guthridge replaced Dean Smith at North Carolina. He went to the Final Four his first year. It wasn't enough. I think he may have gone one more time. I can't remember. But it finally became too much. Other coaches have done it. I think Saban and Mike Krzyzewski will be the two toughest acts to follow. And
what about Calipari?
Calipari, it depends. The only difference between Calipari and Saban and Krzyzewski are the number of titles.
Yeah.
No one will be able to replace Calipari in terms of the aura.
Right.
But I think it's comparing the titles that makes it more difficult. And Krzyzewski is. I don't think there's any chance you can find someone to fill his shoes. And he's about 4 or 5 years older than Nick Saban, and so you'd have to think his time will come sooner.
When you think about it that way. And just how many of these coaches that we consider the greats in college sports and age and how that factors in and just in general, how much the landscape will change at that point. Because what we've seen this year has been a large change in new faces coming into different leagues but no one was really replacing a great. In fact, a lot of these people were replacing people who largely underachieved. So when we're talking about really just what could be huge effects from a hiring or somebody moving on. That's when you really see it.
Yeah, that's why Scott Woodward rolled the Brinks truck up, because he's making a bet. Saban will not be there forever, and we're positioned to make a dent. And Malzahn staying at Auburn, same thing. Kirby Smart, I've always felt was probably in the best position. Kirby Smart's doing it a little sooner than I think we thought he would,
right.
but he looked like if you look at Saban disciples, Kirby Smart and Jimbo Fisher look like the best. And that he has a lot of disciples, but these two were also there very early on.
They were, and the one thing you would say about the argument of, okay, Saban moves on maybe in the next 5 years or beyond that, whatever, you can make bets on all that. But some of these younger coaches and people like Kirby Smart, they're only going to keep getting better over that time and keep gaining more
That's always
success.
the danger when you start getting compared to the younger coaches.
Yeah, and we're seeing a new wave of that, I think.
Oh, no doubt.
Look at the Rose Bowl.
Exactly. We are pretty much out of time.
Man.
If you missed anything here, and if you did, you missed a lot. You can catch up with it on the app and the Apple Podcast. Some final thoughts.